Bingo.
Hi there, Wes.
Hello.
And Gary.
Hey, how's it going?
And we are live on YouTube, just so everybody knows.
Where's Rob?
He's not here yet.
Uh,
I'm glad I checked too. The first time I tried starting it, it wouldn't start. So we canceled. That's why you were in the waiting room for a minute, because we had to restart.
Hey there, Taylor.
Hey, Marty, how are you?
McFabulous.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, everyone.
We are live on YouTube, just so you're aware.
Perfect. You tell me when you're ready, too, if you wouldn't mind.
Anytime you want to.
I love this. Just jump on and let's go. Perfect. Let me look. Hang on. I don't see Michelle.
Michelle hasn't gotten back on yet. She was on, but we had to restart the meeting because it wasn't working.
It's a story of our life.
Tell me. I know.
Well, we need to wait for Michelle.
Yes, we do.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you, Marty.
Doing great. Doing great.
There she is.
Hey, Michelle. Hey, Michelle, can we start? Okay. Perfect. I've got 6:01. Welcome to the South Weber City Planning Commission meeting. Today is September 10th, 2020. We've asked Wright to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if he would. I think Kim will have a flag.
All right. If everybody will stand and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is read the electronic meeting declaration. I will do that. Order on public meetings of the South Weber City Planning Commission. I, Robert Osborne, as the chair of the South Weber City Planning Commission, do hereby find and declare as follows. Due to the emergency conditions which currently exist in the state of Utah, and specifically in Davis County and South Weber, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the recent surge in COVID-19 infections across the state and in Davis County, the holding of public meetings with an anchor location as defined in the Utah Open and Public Meetings Act presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location, and two, the risk to those who may be present at an anchor location can be substantially mitigated by holding public meeting of the Planning Commission pursuant to electronics means that allow for public participation by virtual means. And three, the city has the meetings and the ability to allow virtual participation in the public meetings in accordance with the Utah Open and Public Meetings Act. Now, therefore, based upon the foregoing, for 30 days from the date of this order, meetings of the South Weaver City Planning Commission shall be conducted by a virtual means without an anchor location dated 26th of August, 2020. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Anyone requesting the public comment live via Zoom must pre-register at the following location before 5 p.m. on the meeting date. Comments will also be accepted by public comment at southweavercity.com through an email. Individuals in the public comment live may speak for 3 minutes or less. State your name and address, direct the comments to the entire commission, and please note the Planning Commission will not respond during the public comment period.
There was the only two people that signed up were the developer and Mr. McFadden. So that was it.
Well, they're on the agenda.
That's correct.
I assume you want to withhold your public comment then, right, Marty? Okay. The next item on the agenda, seeing there is no more public comment, move to the next item on the agenda, the approval of the consent agenda or the agenda of 8/13/2020. I assume the commissioners had a chance to review that agenda. Is there any comments from the Planning Commission on that agenda?
I didn't have any.
Nope.
Seeing that there is none, I'd look for a motion to approve that agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to,
Fido.
go ahead then.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda of 8/13/2020.
There's a second.
Or did I say
I'll
agenda?
second.
I said the minutes.
The minutes, sorry. Yeah, correct. There's a
I'll
second.
second it.
Okay, thank you, Wes. All in favor say aye.
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 I'm watching all your lips move, so that's good. Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Number 5 is a conditional use permit review of CU 16-5, South Weaver Soccer Facility by Kelly Park. Did I see Mr. Park on here?
He was.
Oh, there he is. He's waving at me. All right, very good. So as you know, as the commission began reviewing this 2 months ago, I think it was, and didn't quite get it all figured out. And I think we have some direction now from our city attorney, and appreciate that. Like to go ahead and continue that discussion. In the meantime, Mr. Park, Kelly, you guys had a big party.
Oh, that's the first thing I want to apologize to you all. And hopefully I've reached all the councilmen and the mayor, but can I kind of explain how things went sideways there? Do you mind?
Sure, go ahead.
So of course it was in the middle of all the COVID mess, right? And myself and a few other employees of La Roca were all on quarantine when this fine thing was taking place. So it was kind of turned over to actually our head of our Salt Lake branch, and because she was the only one available to take it. And then I guess the 3v3 live, I believe is what it's called. I wasn't involved with it at all because I had been quarantined for the previous 2 weeks. So I was told that there was going to be 85 participants, and I said, oh, that's fine. We've got plenty of parking for that. It shouldn't be an issue. That was a miscommunication. They actually had 85 teams signed up. It was the biggest event they've ever had, I think, because it was the first event back from all of the quarantine of everyone. So I had no idea, even the day of when they called me and said, hey, you got some cars on South Weaver Drive. I thought, oh, maybe 1 or 2 extra cars are there. I later learned that it was a complete and total train wreck, and that it was way beyond what should have happened. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I just wanted to clarify that was not our intent. That was not LaRocca's intent. And had any of the three of us that were not able to be there, been there, or been involved the previous 2 weeks, it would not have happened. So I've actually modified my agreement with LaRocca just to make sure that if they do any events beyond normal practices or games, I have to be involved, and I have to give them written permission as their technically their landlord for any events to take place. And if they have anything beyond those numbers that we can handle, that we know we can handle, then we have to have an alternative plan, like parking at the park and ride, and then shuttling them over, or something in place. But I just want you guys to know that was a 1 in a million kind of fluky. We've been there a few years now, and we've never intended to even run an event like that, let alone have something like that happen. So I really apologize. I have no excuses other than I should have been on it.
Sure. And you brought up a question that I had, and maybe everybody else has too. What is the capacity that you think you can handle down there with parking and everything? What's that number?
We know we're good under 100 cars, like 100 or under. 100 players, typically, well, I shouldn't say players. We definitely keep the number under 100 players on the complex. So we know if we're running like a practice inside and then have a game outside, we're not going to run 2 games outside and have 2 practices inside. So we know where we can hit that 100 cars and we're fine. But anything beyond that, so she schedules it really well. She's actually scheduled. That's how she schedules it. She goes, okay, I have this and this. We can't have anybody else here, and she shoots it out to all the coaches. I guess there's open grass here, but we don't have the parking, so you can't be here. So she's done a really good job of it. I don't know if I would overstep by giving names of who was quarantined or whatever, but it was the people in charge there that really know what's going on and would not have let it happen had they been there for those 2 weeks before it. So
Right. Well, and I'm just trying to figure out maybe for the future. So I don't know, because sorry, my kids were basketball players. They didn't play soccer, so I just don't know what the numbers are. But if there's 2 teams and families, how many cars does that represent? So that would be 1 game, right? 2 teams.
Yeah. Are you talking the outdoor? Yeah. So you roughly have 15 players on a team, on average. And then of course you have a coach and you have the 3 referees. So, you're looking 16 a team twice, that's 32 plus, the 3 refs, that's 35.
Okay.
And you might get more than 1 car per player. So she figures you can have 2 games going in there. And then have, like a small group of people inside if that's what's going on, if people are in the offices or something. So
100's a pretty round number then.
Yeah, that's roughly about how many parking. So we have more than that, actually. I believe we had 78 or 88 parking stalls, and then we have the overflow. So she errs on the side of safety, and even then we're still, pretty close to full sometimes. So.
Right. Okay. The Planning Commission, I don't mean to monopolize the time. Someone else got any other questions or follow up as we start to review this conditional use permit?
One of the concerns that a lot of people have expressed is the participants driving through Maple Farms to access the freeway over there. Is there any way that they can be diverted down South Weaver Drive to 475 and then back down to the freeway versus driving through Maple Farms? My thought on that is, if there's an event going on, can the event provide a barrier just to the west of Raymond Drive on 6650 to divert traffic from going down that way and going through Maple Farms? That is just a temporary flow through that area until that area gets built out. Then there a permanent road, a major road gets built in that area. But we're getting a lot of complaints from people about the speeding through Maple Farms.
Is that addressed to me or?
Anybody that can come up with an idea.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'm just thinking that a barrier can be placed out there on 650 to prevent the participants from driving through the neighborhood. Keep them on the main road.
Yeah, I don't think we have that authority, but I'm all for it. Whatever we can do to not be a disturbance to that neighborhood, I'm 100% behind. I think, as I told you before, everything that we send out, we put on there, please do not go through there. But people go where they go. We just can't stop them. But
Perhaps the city can look into, or the city council, whenever they take action on this, they could probably recommend a barrier to be placed up in that area.
I like that idea,
So-
Wes.
Pardon?
Wes. I like
So,
that
Wes-
idea, Wes. I think that's a good idea to at least prevent the traffic when they leave
Right.
from going down 6650 and forcing them to use the South Weaver Drive,
Yep.
either east or west, and then go down 475 east to the freeway. So I think that's a good recommendation to ask the city council to look at doing some sort of barrier. And maybe even you could recommend when you exit the soccer complex that they go west. You know, that might be another idea. Just, you're not going to eliminate the traffic that's going to the soccer complex. If they get off the freeway, they're going to cut through that old Maple, but at least maybe you could cut the traffic in half by not allowing them to come back that direction on 6650. So I think that's a good idea. Because
As we review the CUP, can we request, maybe we get a sign that says right turn only?
yeah, I think that's in our bounds to recommend to city council that either have a right turn only exiting or put a barrier so that they don't turn left onto 6650. I think that's one, or a couple possibilities that they could
Well,
do.
even a right turn only at the exit, correct, at the facility?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, how many will make a right turn only though, and how many are gonna head the other direction?
At least
Again,
the sign,
Perhaps both, perhaps both.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, I'm just thinking out loud. Yeah, no, not everybody's going to obey that. I get that. I mean,
and you can put a barrier right there in front of the complex that they have to turn right.
It's a state road, so I don't know if we can do it on a state road.
I think, Wes, I think Tim's talking about on the property itself.
Yeah, true.
No, well, no, I was talking about a barrier in the middle of,
Oh, my bad. Yeah, no. And then now I'm back to Wes. I don't know what the state would do.
so, but, our engineer, I don't know, Brandon, you might know what might be allowed for us to do to prevent traffic from going through the subdivision or making right turn only. UDOT's fairly supportive, it seems like, when we want to do things, but putting a barrier in the middle of a road's significant.
They know how to do it on 193, right, Taylor?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Next traffic light.
So if I can ask it, we have this legal framework from Jamie that I'm wondering if you guys have an opinion on, where it just talks about how items 1 and 2 in his legal framework discuss traffic that is generated that is not detrimental to the immediate neighborhood. And then also the proposed development shall not overload the carrying capacity for which the local streets were designed. So I guess I really appreciate the work that Jamie put into this.
Good work.
I think it clearly identifies what our code allows legally and not. So I guess, are we comfortable with saying that, at least on number 2, that the carrying capacity of the local roads is being exceeded by La Roca traffic? Or are we saying that, and this is subjective, but that there's enough traffic that's detrimental to the surrounding neighborhoods?
The
I just
second,
want to make sure we're
Do we know the
Sorry,
carrying
Tim.
capacity of South Weaver Drive and the other roads? And number
Yeah,
of
I mean-
so
vehicles?
that would
per
require a
minute?
traffic study.
well, I think the legal capacity, I don't think we've exceeded that at all. But I
Right.
think it has caused a detriment. And that's my focus. When I looked at Jamie's letter, I was just focused on the detriment to the neighborhood and the impact that the allowing this soccer field to have larger events than what was originally intended or what was originally presented to the Planning Commission. I think when I was reading the minutes, the events there are now much larger. And so the impact to that adjacent neighborhood appears to me to be detrimental.
So
Okay.
that's why I was asking Mr. Parker about the car capacity of what they have there. And I think if you base that off of 100 cars at any one time, I think that's the capacity, right? It's 77 paved stalls plus 30 or 30 more. What's that? My math is off a little bit. 20 more, 22 more stalls or spots in the gravel area. That's capacity, right? That's an easy way to count it and say, that's it, right? Or am I just drinking something? Well, I'm drinking Diet Coke or Coke. But
Well, I still think the roads can handle capacity without any problem of more than 100 cars, but I still believe that it's detrimental to the neighborhoods. Just the use is very pointed at specific times, and it becomes a detriment to those residential neighborhoods. And we should recommend, in my opinion, to keep the traffic on South Weaver Drive and 475 East, which are two roads that handle a lot of traffic already, and it's more customary. Whereas those neighborhoods that have the traffic going through them, that was never our intent to have that type, even 100 cars when they all show up at the same time. I think that's the concern to me.
And I'm not in disagreement with you, Tim. I absolutely agree that the intent is not to have those cars be in the neighborhood. My question is how does La Roca control that? I don't know how that happens. I haven't a clue on how to have them control the patrons. I mean, if you go to Walmart, you can go to Walmart in any direction and any road you want. Walmart doesn't have a say about that, right? So I that's the part I'm confused about. How do we make it work?
Rob, I think if the city council was to come up with a resolution or anything that whenever there's a major or an event at the soccer complex, that the event organizers will put a barrier on 6650 to prevent traffic from going down, to prevent participant traffic from going down that road.
What's that mean, a barrier? I don't understand what that means.
No, simple road barrier. It could be kind of like an oversized sawhorse across there that's illuminated with reflective tape and something that there says this road is closed to non-residents.
Oh, okay.
That would be during only during events at the soccer complex.
That's nearly every day in the summer.
Every day.
Okay.
So, Rob, maybe if I can ask you a question, I think you're exploring the right idea, and that's the limit on total parking stalls on site.
Right.
And I mean, within our conditional use, we started talking about how in the event that if demand ever exceeded that total parking on site the way it's designed right now, that we would come back and ask for additional on-site parking, and that might be at least one approach to where we limit the amount of traffic that could be coming and going through the neighborhoods. I don't know if that's something that we want to. It would be, like I say, like a second order effect that we could look at. But maybe the first one being that we try to improve traffic patterns coming in and out, mostly out of LaRocca.
Well, and I appreciate that, Taylor. I do. I thank you. I think that's the parking is what can be controlled, right? I don't know if you can
Right.
control who drives on what road where. That's. I mean, we can ask. That's nice, but I don't know if we can control that. And I think you're right. I think trying to figure out that, and Mr. Perk can control that. I mean, other than stand at the corner of 6650, are you a LaRocca person? Okay, no. Yes, local. I just don't know how that's practical. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I think
Agreed.
this has been a problem even prior to this one event. I think that it's been detrimental to that neighborhood. And
Which
so-
neighborhood? Raymond Drive? Is that the one you're talking about? Or
6650
650?
off of South Weaver Drive.
And,
Okay.
yeah, where it goes down into Maple Hills, Maple Farms.
Correct. Okay.
We've had, the last meeting that we discussed this and delayed it till tonight. We had quite a few comments from individuals living in Maple Farms of speeders and stuff that were associated with the complex up there. Because they were all bunched together at one time whenever the complex got out.
I understand that, and I appreciate that. I do, because believe me, I wouldn't want speeders in my neighborhood either. I'm just wondering how to fix that, because I kind of think it's an enforcement problem. A lot of it, 70% of it is enforcement. The other 30% is trying to figure out how to move them around. That's all I'm saying.
So I think we could explore one option, and that is making one-way traffic out of one of those roads. Maybe something to consider and spitball here.
Go ahead, Gary.
I wouldn't do anything one way because that's going to affect the residents as well. I agree with you, Rob. I think it's an enforcement problem. I sympathize with the residents who are down there. I live on Canyon Meadows or Peterson Parkway. I have speeders come down my street as well, not near as in the numbers or the tightness of when a LaRocca event is starting or ending. But I think it's unfair to ask a property owner to control something off of his property. And aside from, what Mr. Park's already doing, perhaps he could stress it more, and to encourage people to go down South Weaver Drive and 475. In fact, it's probably faster if you're following the speed limit. Now, if you're speeding and going through the back way, yeah, that might be faster, but I just don't see how we can really enforce that unless we have Davis County there every night, parked there and writing tickets. That will get people's attention real quick.
Right. Okay.
Well, the one thing the city could do is move the barriers on 6650, move those to the west of, Silverleaf. That would prevent any of the traffic from coming down through there.
So who's going to do that?
The city put the barriers in, the city can move the barriers.
Are we talking like every night or permanently or?
That'd be permanent.
Permanent.
Hey, Wes, can you recall, I know we've talked about this in the past, but was it a matter of providing the necessary access to those developments that has either changed or hasn't changed that made it so that we couldn't explore that option? I'm just trying to remember what we talked about last time.
It was my suggestion at the time that we do put the barriers to the west of was it Silverleaf Road in there? And the Planning Commission recommended that they go to the east of Silverleaf Road. And that was what we passed on to the City Council. But I think if we move those barriers to the west of that entry into Maple Farms, it will prevent traffic from going through there, which has been identified as a problem.
So, Barry, do you have the ability to answer that question? Is blocking that entrance going to negatively impact the site access for those subdivisions?
Well, obviously, it's going to cut off access from coming from the west into Old Maple Farms. I don't know how much traffic there actually is coming from the west, though. I mean, I'm sure there are people that go out that way and go down to Riverdale and shop or whatever and come back. It's one of those things where they may be willing to give up that convenience of being able to just shoot out there on 6650 in order to stop the traffic, the La Roca traffic going through there. I think Wes is point there. That would certainly stop that traffic. I mean, they'd learn that pattern real quick if they can't go that way. It would probably increase traffic on the residential part of 6650 a little bit. I wouldn't expect it to increase it a lot, but people would go through perhaps Old Maple Farms and then come back out on 6650. But even then, it's a matter of learning the pattern. I think that's maybe a reasonable suggestion, is moving those barriers just a bit and cutting that access off to the west on 6650.
So I think we're talking about something that really has nothing to do with this conditional use permit.
Well, I'm not so sure. We're talking about traffic patterns that affect the neighborhood, and we're trying.
But how does, I mean, and I totally understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to keep us focused on the conditional use permit. I mean, this is a discussion worth having. I just don't know if this is
one of the things we're charged to do, Gary, is if there are detrimental effects, one of the things we're charged to do is look at ways to alleviate those detrimental effects. And even though this is an action that Kelly can't take, it's an action that the city would have to take. It's still a method, one possibility of alleviating one of those detrimental effects. It's worth looking at.
Barry, if I might, if I'm understanding this correctly, you're talking about blocking the south end of, I think it's called Silver Oak Lane, and opening up 6650 that is currently blocked?
No, we're talking about moving the barrier to the west of Silver Oak Drive. Right now it's to the east.
Yeah, that's the same. You're saying the same thing. You're saying the same thing as Brandon.
Well, I'm not sure if I was understanding. I think I am now. So you're talking about the residential portion of 6650 would then be opened to go north on Silver Oak Lane, but you would have a dead end for anybody who came down 6650 to the west.
Right.
Yes, that's correct.
So we would need some kind of turnaround there at the end. It's a very long. I mean, you wouldn't be able to turn around the way that it's configured now.
You would need a turnaround, and you need some signage up there stating that it's a dead end. But trying to solve those traffic problems, I don't know what other action you could take. You can put signs up, but some people will pay heed to those and some won't. maybe that's
The
enough.
The Jersey barrier, everybody will pay attention to.
True enough.
That's what we've got up there now is a couple of Jersey barriers.
You know, I think about large event venues like the E Center, or what is it now, Maverick Center. I've been to events there, and they very tightly control how you enter and how you exit. And they do that by barriers, by, I think, mostly cones they set up. And then when an event is over, they actually have police there that are directing traffic, and you can only go out the way they tell you to go out. So
Would Davis County Sheriff come up and control traffic for us?
well, I don't think, see, in the Maverick Center case, those are big events that aren't happening every day.
Yeah, we're not talking about 20,000 people.
Right.
We're
But
talking about 100 cars.
I'm just saying there's precedent for controlling how traffic enters and exits an event venue. It's done all the time. And there's no reason we can't do that if you feel like that's some way to remove that detrimental effect.
So I agree with what you're saying. I just don't know how it applies to the CUP, because it's not on his property. It's something the city would have to take.
You're right. It's not something we can tell the CUP applicant to do, because he can't do that. That's an action the city has to take. But we can make that a recommendation to the city council as a way to mitigate the detrimental effect.
Okay, so, and I agree with Commissioner Boatright that, you know, let's stick to what we can do with this CUP. And I think one of the things is we limit to 100 cars. I mean, I know some Sundays at church, it's way over 100 cars. And so, you know, I mean, that's what he said he could handle. That's what it is. And that's what he says that his folks are booking for. And I think that's one way, that's verifiable, that's measurable. I think that's a fair number. And so I think that as we amend the CUP, that should be something we add to the CUP, is say, hey, we only want events that have more than 100 cars, no more than 100 cars. Done, right? That will eliminate some of the traffic problems, I think, that are around there. Will they completely go away? No, they won't. Again, I don't understand how we think that we can tell people where and how to drive on any of the roads. I mean, again, you go to the store, no one tells you what road you can and can't take. So, I'd like to stick to what can Mr. Park do? One of those things is the cars. Another thing is he can put up some signage that say, please turn right only out of our facility. I mean, these are not unreasonable things to ask for to help mitigate the problems. So that's what I think we can do with the parking and recommend to the city council. I don't know if there's anything else other than you say, by the way, city council, why don't you look at fixing how traffic flows on 6650?
Here's our recommendation.
They have every right to view and figure that out. I just don't think that's our deal with this CUP. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Let me just state, I don't think it's part of the CUP either. It's not something that the CUP applicant can do, but it is an action that you can take subsequent to whatever you do with the CUP if you feel like that's going to help.
It doesn't say on my agenda to take action against roads and stuff on this on the soccer park.
Perhaps this is something that Blair can take to the city council.
And amen to that. If he wants to push that along the city council, I stand behind him. He can, you know, but I just don't want to get into territory that's not really ours. You know, ours is to figure this CUP out, and that's what I want to try to do. And one of the things was the parking issue, and I think we've tied that down. So and the other thing is we can recommend right out a sign. I don't think that's unreasonable. And the other thing on Jamie's list was talk about the noise, right? I think that's what's on there. I have to check. Sorry, can't remember. Someone correct me if I'm not correct here.
Somebody had made a comment about activity at 1 o'clock in the morning within the building, and then everybody leaving at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was quite noisy. Could we limit the operation time to say close down at 10 o'clock at night?
We've already done that. That's already in the CUP now. Hours of operation, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Saturday. Done.
Okay.
Man, do easy ones like that again.
You know, though, I don't think that one's so easy. I know that was mentioned and talked about at that meeting, and we had multiple meetings right after that where I had told, and I know Brandon was there, where I said this project is not going to go forward if our hours are limited like that, because the only thing we have to sell is time. And I was assured multiple times that those hours of operation would not be put in a CUP. And that was actually why I called and requested one in 2018 to make sure that they had not been put in a CUP. At that time, I found out that there had never been a written CUP, so no one really knew. That's where all this is coming from, I think. So if I don't understand why we wouldn't be able to operate our business on a Sunday at noon, or, I mean, I understand you don't want cars there at 1 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't agree more. I wouldn't want that by my house either. But I don't know. I would ask that you would review that definitely, because that is definitely going to become a legal issue if it's left as is right there, because I honestly don't think it was originally. I was promised that it would not be in the CUP after that meeting, because we were going to walk away from the project if it was, knowing that that is our only thing to sell. And then in 2018, when the CUP was completely written and redone, it was intentionally not put on it because it was discussed at that time as well.
Yeah, the May 10th, 2018 CUP number 16-05. I do not see anything in there about hours of operation.
Right.
Other than no lighting shall be permitted for the outdoor fields.
It may be worth me noting the information that was available to me when I drafted this memorandum. And some of it was pieced together by a review by our code enforcement officer of the meeting minutes. And then he put that together. My understanding in September 2016 is that the city council approved the conditional use permit by motion. And there were orally stated conditions to the conditional use permit. And one of those that was orally stated was the operating hours from 6 to 10 p.m. There then in 2018 was a revisitation of the CUP and of those conditions. And I think it is accurate. I'm looking at the document right now that it does not include in the written document those hours of operation. And there's a question in my mind as to whether the requirements that were in the initial oral conditional use permit were carried forward into the 2018 document, or whether the 2018 document was a complete replacement of what had been done in 2016. And unfortunately, I wasn't present for any of those. And so I'm not aware of how exactly that was handled at the time.
Okay, I'm not sure where to go from here then with that particular times of operation, because it would be in the minutes as an oral part, wouldn't it?
And it is by Kent Hire. He made the motion.
Yeah, it is, I believe, reflected in the minutes of the meeting. And absent another document, I think the minutes are the best representation of what that, what the decision was that was made during that council meeting.
Correct. It was absolutely. He did say it, and what's funny is it was just kind of they were kind of like, so what other things should we be considering? Do we need to consider like hours of operation? He's like, well, what do you think your hours of operation will be? This was Merv Taylor, by the way, and I said, well, I don't know, like, and at the time we were discussing the building, we weren't talking about outdoor fields, because obviously outdoor fields are limited by light, which they wouldn't let us put lights. And I said, I can't imagine much beyond 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., but I don't know exactly. And so he said, okay, well, let's put hours. I mean, it was just kind of a fly by the seat of the pants. Like it wasn't, I wasn't asked ahead of time, like, you know, give us what your hours of, you know, what you want, it was just kind of a discussion is what I understood at the time. And then after I went home, I realized, wait a minute, are they like, is that what, are they writing that into the conditional use permit? So I instantly got a hold of the mayor and Brandon and I don't know who else was involved. Someone else, at least one or two others. I don't know if it was planning commission or town council, and we had a few meetings and discussed that we would not build the facility if that was going to be part of it. And then, like I said, again, it was discussed many times in 2018 when we decided, yes, we need a written piece of paper that says what our limitations are. That tells all of the limitations on the facility, and it was discussed multiple times that would not be because it hadn't been a problem. I mean, we're not there. You're talking kids playing soccer. We're not there till 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, other than maybe we had a New Year's Eve party that went till midnight, you know, a soccer party that went till midnight, but it's not something we're going to be there till 3 o'clock in the morning or anything. But so I wouldn't mind if there were even some loose hours, but I can't not have the facility on Sunday. That's a seventh of my business wiped out in one day, you know. I mean, and no, we don't use it all always on Sunday, but I feel I need the option, or it is a severe, you know, punch in the gut to my business and my ability to make a living.
So, so your problem's not with the 10 o'clock, your problem's with the Sunday. Is that what I'm understanding?
Both, because I know we've had games that go until like 10 or 10:30. We're not going to be there till, I don't know that we've ever been there till 1 o'clock in the morning. Maybe somebody was there. We didn't have games going that long for sure, or practices going that long for sure. But I mean, if kids can be there till 10:30 at night, you know, I don't, on a Saturday night, I don't think that's unreasonable. And plus, I mean, our parking lot's a long ways from anybody's house, really. I understand the traffic issues. But if somebody's there that late, we're obviously not using the outdoor facilities. So there's not very many people there anyway, if we are there that late.
Right.
I don't think it's a problem with somebody being there. I think it's just the hours of operation. And I don't see a problem with Monday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. for your hours of operation. Of course, if somebody's there after 10, you're not holding games. That shouldn't be an issue as far as hours of operation.
Well, like I said, sometimes we'll go till, you know, if the game starts at 9:30, it'll go till 10:30. So, you know, I mean, I would ask that maybe you would make it, whatever, 6 a.m. to 11 even. I mean, that would cover everything. But with the exception of maybe New Year's Eve, which we like to do for the little kids. We like to give them like their own little, it's a party for all of basically the kids 11 and under, to have somewhere to go. And most of them are gone by 11 anyway, but some of them do make it till midnight. But
you know, I appreciate that. I mean, I have a hard time going beyond 10, but I'm okay to add the Sunday too. I don't think that's a problem. And again, it's not that it has to be locked up by 10. It's just operations have to be done by 10, is I think what Tim's trying to say. And
So,
I think if we work with the city on the New Year's thing, I don't think that's a big deal either. I think that's admirable that we're trying to find a place for the kids to be on New Year's. So that's a good thing. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
So Kelly, you're saying that you'd be okay with operational hours, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't imagine, other than the single scenario that I pointed out, that we would be there later than that. Of course, the second I do that, my neighbor next door is the second somebody's there at 11:01, you're going to get phone calls. So, I mean, so we'll do our best. I mean, we will live by it if we have to have hours of operation. Yes, but I don't feel it's an issue because we're not there. I mean, we're not there till 1 o'clock in the morning. We're not. It just doesn't happen. So, I don't feel that it even really needs to be. But if you do, then
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what the issue is too. You know, is it just we don't want people driving down the streets at 11 a.m. because they're in a building? I'm struggling with that a little to see why that's an issue.
and the fact that we were in
So, Rob-
the flight zone there, that building is so insulated, you cannot hardly even hear the jets inside the building. There's no way you can hear anything going on inside that building outside. There's no way.
Rob, can we just ask a question to Jamie real quick? Is that all right?
yeah.
Jamie, as I'm looking over your memo and looking over the legal framework, does the city have the actual legal standing to influence hours of operation as you've written them here?
To the extent they relate to parking and traffic, yes. I think you do.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're clear on that point.
Yeah,
It seems like a little bit of shaky ground on what we can and cannot say within hours of operation, only as they affect traffic. So if
I
we
think
feel comfortable with the way traffic flows, we really shouldn't be
traffic
affecting
impact
hours
on
of operation.
neighborhood. And I think you're also talking about noise, which you can tether and have relate to some of these factors. But of course, you know, keep in mind the noise on an indoor facility is different than the noise of activities that would occur outdoors.
Yeah, this isn't a car wash.
Right. And then to the earlier discussion about what carried forward from 2016 to 2018, I'll just read you the language from the conditional use permit that was written in 2018. It includes a report on the status of some of the conditions that were required at the time of approval. And then its language is, following a review, the following clarifications and conditions are also proposed. And I read that because it says also proposed, that they're layering or in addition to what was done in 2016, not supplanting what was done in 2016. And to the extent it's amended, I think we ought to clarify that whatever the amendment is now should be the document, the conditional use permit, and that we would quit looking back to all of the previous decisions that had been made.
I agree. That's wise counsel, Jamie.
Blair, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to clarify. So you asked what's the problem. So the complaints, since I get a lot of those complaints, the complaints were the public understood that it was limited to 10 o'clock. So Kelly is correct. At 10:04, I start getting phone calls or texts. And the complaints are horns in the parking lot, lights, that kind of stuff. It isn't coming from inside the complex. It's just the fact that they're there.
Okay.
And that's the complaint that I get. Whether that's justified or not, I'm just clarifying the complaints. That is what we get the phone calls on.
Well, and I appreciate that, Blair. That's why I asked the question. So thank you.
Agreed.
Okay. And noise and lights and nuisance is also part of the conditional use permit, right? The way I understand is that some of the things the Planning Commission needs to be considering. And, you know, everybody's got a chirping horn when they lock and unlock their car. That's just today, right? And so that could be annoying. There is a neighbor across the street from the facility there as well. So, I mean, that's certainly something to consider. if we're adding every day of the week, you know, as a give, you know, I don't think 10 o'clock is too bad of a take, right? And just from my mind, because I certainly don't want Blair up later than he has to be, because, you know, he doesn't watch the news at night anymore. It's just too depressing.
I just know games will go past that point. And so if you are going to set a time limit, Kelly's either got to move his games earlier or you got to move the time later than 10. Because right now it's during the winter time. And Kelly, I've been up there many, many times. Always at night, it goes past 10 o'clock. When you're doing those late games, people are in the parking lot. They're there until 10:30 or so. So I just know that that's going to be a conflict. If Kelly doesn't adhere to the 10 and it goes past that, it's going to be something that comes back up. So we either got to extend it or Kelly's got to agree to adhere to it. I mean, it's really got to be something.
So how are we addressing noise in our city parks?
We don't
we
have
games.
noise ordinance.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking too.
And that's
I mean,
point, Taylor. What's the hours of
right?
our city parks?
And if our own rec leagues go past 10 o'clock for whatever reason, whether it's an after party, whatever, what do we do?
Great question. Does someone smarter than me have the answer to that?
But again, this is a different animal. I think we're comparing apples and oranges. I get where Taylor's going with this, but again, I am wondering how it ties back to this specific conditional use permit.
Sure.
Well, and it's a matter of what conditions we impose, right? And I'm trying to find a solution to what we're considering a detriment from the noise and light and everything else, and wondering if we've applied it anywhere else in the city. And we play soccer on our city parks. So I'm wondering if there's something to be gleaned from that.
I understand what you're doing. You're looking for a roadmap. I get that. And consistency. I get that.
I don't think our city parks require a conditional use permit.
Yeah, and Taylor, I think we're looking this is a little bit different than a city park because this is a commercial use.
City park is a public city-sponsored activity.
And I get that. I'm just saying that what we're trying to address is the detrimental effects, right? In their surrounding neighborhood. I'm just saying there's similar detrimental effects to a city park. I know it's a different use by definition, but I'm just wondering, like, it just seems like the same complaints that could be raised at La Roca could be raised at the city park. And, you know, I'm just looking for a standard, because that's what we're evaluating here, is the standards in which we apply a conditional use.
So I think going back to Blair's comments, I think Blair nailed it on the head, that it's either, you know, we extend it an hour, or Mr. Park agrees to the 6 to 10. I, like you, Rob, I'm okay given the Sunday thing. I don't think we should impose our personal religious beliefs on businesses. Though I wouldn't do that myself, but it is what it is. But I think we do have a little bit of give and take here.
So I'm done fishing on this. So I'm going to throw the dynamite in the water. And so my thought is, let's make it 11, but everybody has to be off the premise at 11. That way, there's no confusion when phone calls start to happen, right? So it's 11. Everybody has to be off the premise by 11. Is that fair, reasonable?
Except for New Year's.
Okay, Happy New Year.
I want it to be something we can enforce ourselves. I can't promise you everybody's going to be off the premise by a set time, but I can tell you I can stop running any activities or games by a set time. And if that's 11, I'm on board. if it's any earlier than that, I'm gonna have to really discuss that with La Roca and see what they have to say about it. But I can definitely sell them. We end all activities by 11 except on New Year's Eve.
Well,
If you guys are good with that, I mean, if not, I understand, and then we'll have to figure out what we need to do from there. But
so here's what happens is people start to misrepresent that and misunderstand that by going, oh, well, wait a minute, you're supposed to be gone by 11. No, we're just supposed to stop operations by 11. It's two separate things. I'm trying to avoid that. What I'm trying to avoid is a number and that's it, right? So if you internally stop operations at 10:30 or 10 or whatever it is to get everybody off and out, that's what I'm trying to shoot at. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. I mean, is that doable?
like I said, if you'll make it 11, I'm good with it, and I'm sure I can sell that to La Roca, because for sure they're not going to have anything run past that on a normal night.
That's
And
what
I drive
that's
at,
what we're looking for.
not run. I'm just saying gone.
I mean, I can't expect them to go out in the parking lot and say, you have to leave the property to every, if somebody's sitting out in their car talking to somebody, or I don't want that responsibility either. I guess is what I'm saying. So if we can promise to end our stuff at a certain time, I can't promise you that somebody's not going to go sit in their car and talk on their phone, or, that's not for me to enforce, I guess, necessarily.
Okay.
That's my concern. I want to know that I can control what I promise you we're going to do. And I don't feel like I can control that.
So you can control them to stop operations by 10, but we say 11.
I would say stop operations by 11, and we're fine with that.
It's a hard one to do, because then what happens if someone's there at 11, Blair gets a call, and that's what I'm trying to avoid, right? But if we say 11, it's 11, but you stop operations at 10, that gives an hour for people to get off or get out or whatever they're going to do.
You have to understand that field is $500 an hour minimum. So you're talking about $3,000 a week that costs me. That hour of operation costs me a week, just 6 days a week. So I'm very apprehensive to give up that hour. I know it makes your life easier, but it's a huge hit to me. I mean, that's $150,000 a year potentially, right?
I think that's a little bloated, but I get.
I know what we lease it for.
I get what you're trying to say, but I think you gave me the extreme, and I would probably do that too if I were in your shoes. So I get that, but I'm trying to figure out a happy medium for everybody, and with the citizens of the city versus what you need to do to operate your business. And so,
and I would hope that happy medium would be we end by 11 every day. I mean, we're obviously not on the outdoor fields after dark, so.
Well, okay. So what are you giving us if we do 11? What do I get from you? Because I give you
a promise that we'll be done by 11. I mean, the complaints have been that we've been there till 1 or something, is what someone said, right?
Well, and that I'm not sure that happens all the time, and I'm not sure that's not somebody else that just pulled into your parking lot either. So I don't know that. So yeah. But I'm just trying to figure out, what makes everybody happy, even though that's near impossible.
If I'm willing to accept hours of operation as part of the agreement, I guess I'm definitely willing to accept 11. If it's anything beyond that, I guess we'll have to have further discussions, or whatever. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not trying to be difficult. And when I say that's 150, we're not going to be there till 11 o'clock every night. It's not going to happen. But that is the earning potential that hour is. So I just want you to realize it doesn't seem like a big deal, but to me and the facility, that hour is a big deal. That's a lot of money.
Well, I mean, having cars coming in and out of there till 11 o'clock across the street at that house, and those spotlights, what those headlights to hitting that house. I mean, and people maybe yelling or honking horns, hitting down Raymond Drive. They're hearing that. I mean, that's got to be weighed too, right? Or am I crazy? I just think that's gotta be weighed, you know, that's worth something to somebody too, right?
Sure, absolutely. That's why we weren't allowed to put lights in, and I understand. I mean, they didn't want us outside with games or practices after dark. I get it. And
So-
I wouldn't want to be the neighbor next to that either. So
So, Mr. Park, are you currently not renting out the space on Sundays?
my biggest thing on Sunday is that when so we're a member of the ECNL, it's the Elite Clubs National League. It's all the MLS clubs and one or two clubs from each state are part of it. When they fly into, like, for instance, San Jose Earthquakes or LA Galaxy, we play those teams. We play their youth teams. So when they fly in, they line up games for them on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, against us or the other clubs in Utah that are part of it. So when they have that at our facility, we're going to have games there on a Sunday. Probably 2 games on a Sunday. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. We don't we don't use it very often, but I just feel like it's something I need to keep, I need the ability to keep that in case the world goes crazy and we have a lockdown and I need to make back some money somehow on a Sunday.
So you're currently doing stuff on Sundays periodically?
No, we have games there when they do that. Yes.
Okay,
Actually,
so we're essentially giving you one more day a week that you can rent the facility out.
well, I don't feel that the current conditional use permit had any hours or limitations on hours or days, and it's been discussed multiple times, and Brandon can tell you it's been a topic for 4 years now that I didn't agree that was part of it, and we stated we would not build the facility if we were going to have hours
Okay.
limitations.
So let me just go back to my question. If I called you today and asked if I could rent the facility on a Sunday, what would your answer be?
I don't rent the facility to anyone but La Roca.
Well,
so
okay, you're not answering my question. It's a simple yes or no. Is the facility open or available on Sunday?
Nobody has anything scheduled in there. No. If someone has like one of the coaches in the club or something has one of their kids or something, they want to go in there on a Sunday, they go in there on a Sunday.
So is that a business decision, or why are you not renting it out?
Why are we not renting it on Sunday?
Yeah.
Well, the whole facility is rented to La Roca. They use it as they wish. So they could use it on Sunday. We don't have a lot of demand for things on Sunday right now. But my fear is down the road, I will need that. This has been a huge, that big shutdown has really hurt financially a lot of people, including us. So I don't want to give away the opportunity to potentially make some money on a Sunday if I need to.
I'm just trying to understand. You keep saying that you need the Sunday, which I totally get, but yet you're also arguing that it wasn't part of the conditional use permit. So I'm just trying to understand where the whole Sunday thing fits in here, because I think we're giving a little by not having, or by saying you can operate it 7 days a week, but you're not saying that. So
what detriment is there to the city if I'm operating my business on Sunday?
Oh,
I don't see
I'm with you there. I'm trying to understand why the Sunday discussion came up.
Yeah, just because it was brought up as hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 9 to whatever, or 6 to whatever it says.
Okay, so it is in the conditional use permit.
Well, no, I don't think it is. Not on the 2018 one. It's not. There never was one written for 2016, but in the minutes, it's talked about.
Yeah,
so,
it was a CPU by motion. Okay.
Yeah.
So by us saying that you can operate on Sundays, you don't feel that the city or that we as a planning commission are giving you anything?
Well, I already thought that we could, because the 2018 CUP doesn't say anything about Sunday. I don't know why it would. So.
Okay.
Okay, for me, I'm still not comfortable with 11. I'm just not getting it. I think people have a right to peace in this city. after 10 o'clock. I just go to any national park and a campground. You're not to be. It's quiet hours, right? I just don't think 10 o'clock's unreasonable. I just don't. So that's my feeling. I'd like to know what the rest of the commission thinks.
I think 7 days a week is not much of a problem whatsoever. And hours of operation, 6 a.m. till 11 at night, I think that would be reasonable.
Okay. Tim, what do you think?
7 days a week, of course.
Yeah.
I think I would lean more towards the 10:30 as far as the operation goes.
Split the time. Got it. Taylor?
I'm not sure if you want to know. I'm okay with the 7 days a week. I'm just really nervous about the legal footing that we're on with hours of operation. Just, with what Jamie has provided, I'm nervous that maybe we don't have that lever to pull, but that's where I'm at. If Mr. Park is willing to go, 10, 11, I'm not sure that it really matters to me.
Okay.
Maybe Taylor, to help you out, it's just a recommendation to city council.
Yeah, they get.
And I get that. I just don't want to give them a bad recommendation.
But they can have legal weigh in on our recommendation.
Sure. Yep. Get it.
Well, I mean, you just approved a car wash and said that this is the hours of operation.
And I didn't have this memo from Jamie in front of me. That really helps.
Okay.
Barry, by chance, do you know what the city code is on noise restrictions?
I don't know that we have a noise ordinance per se. We just have a nuisance ordinance. So it's if the noise rises to a level of a nuisance, then we have an ordinance that covers it.
Because the CUP states in item 6, must comply with all city code, including but not limited to noise restrictions and signage. So we're talking about noise restriction there.
I'm not aware of any noise restriction per se.
Okay.
Okay. So I think this is the commission. I'm willing to split hairs here. Call it 10:30, and that's what it is. 6 to 10:30, 7 days a week. That's what I would suggest we recommend to the city council.
What did we get? I'm sorry, I didn't hear Gary. What did he say?
Oh, sorry.
So I'm fine with 7 days a week on the time. I don't know. I'm wondering how we can enforce people's behavior in the parking lots or on the roads. That seems to be like the issue.
Just like driving behavior.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Gary. I mean, we can only set what we can set here. And
I agree with you, Gary. I don't think we're going to enforce people's behavior at all. I'm just talking about the hours of operation.
Yeah.
But whether they hang out for another couple hours in the parking lot, that's their personal decision.
Yeah.
And decides to go for a drive to the Maverick and back and forth all over the streets. Doesn't matter to me.
So to carry that thought further, if we establish a 10 o'clock hours of operation and somebody stays outside at 11 o'clock with music, what's the enforcement action?
That's your typical curfew, and
right.
Standard noise, just like as if you, Taylor, had a party at your home. It's not any different.
Yeah, that's not a call
I
to
guess
Blair. That's a call to Davis County Dispatch.
Yeah, that's not a problem with the CUP at all.
Okay. And I think it's good to publicly state that, right?
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Mr. Park Kelly, are you okay at 10:30? Is that a compromise that we all can live with?
I would really love 11, because if we're running games at like 9:30 and it goes till 10:40, I I don't want to be splitting hairs.
Okay.
Well, how
And
long do the
honestly,
games go? Because before you told us they ended at 10:30. Now it's 10:40.
I thought
I
they
think
did
wanted to be clear.
if we start a game 10 minutes late or something, I just don't want to deal with it. I know I can be done by 10:30, but if I know I have to be done by 11, we will be done by 11. If we're, if a game runs 10 minutes over, I don't want to be going, oh my gosh, it's 10:40. They're going to be calling the city and we're going to, I just know if our last game starts at 9:30 and it starts at 9:40, we're good. We're good to go. I don't have to eliminate an entire hour of games, and I know that we can be done. And I can tell you, we will schedule the last anything at 9:30 and try to be done by 10:30. But if I can just know that if we're a few minutes late, it's not going to be an issue. 11 just makes me feel like you guys aren't going to have the headache, and I'm not going to have the headache, and we are not going to have to keep doing this.
Well, I apologize. I actually am confused too, because I had the impression that you ended at 10 o'clock. So that's why I suggested 10:30, because you were going to go over once in a while.
Oh, we haven't had a set time where we end. She could schedule whatever she wanted. I don't know what her set time is to end on anything particularly. We don't do anything till late. I mean, I do know that, but I don't know exactly what time her last game has ever been scheduled at. I couldn't tell you. I could find that out, but
that's the impression I had, is that most of your games end by 10 o'clock. And so that's why I suggested 10:30. So I'm really confused now.
The discussion I've had with the Roca staff is that they were trying to end by 10 and they were going past that, Kelly. That's been the discussion for a lot of years. That's when they were trying to end, but it was just going past that point in time.
Perfect. That's what we're looking at then. Ending 10:30 shouldn't be a problem.
Like I said, if it was 11, I can go to La Roca and say, you have to be done by 11. That's it. If it's any earlier than that, I need to confirm with them that this isn't going to be an issue on their side. But obviously you guys can do what you want.
Yeah. I still think we ought to recommend 10:30, and if they are a good neighbor or good citizens and it's working out and they want to come back and request 11 o'clock to the city council.
Yeah, again, the final say is with the city council. We're just making a recommendation here.
Agreed.
I'm good with that too. Okay, is there anything else on this CUP? I've got 100 cars maximum in the parking lot. I've got a right turn, and I got hours of operation Monday through Sunday, 6 to 10:30 p.m., 6 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Is there anything else?
Yes.
Can I just throw one thing at that parking lot? Can I confirm the numbers on that too? I was just throwing you, rough numbers. I don't know exactly what the capacity is. I would really like to know that before we're limited to not being able to use that. If it's
not comfortable past 100, because I just took your numbers of how many people come to a soccer game and how many cars that would add up to. And so I got 30, 30, and 30, which is 90, and gave you 10 more for coaches and for refs. So is that not it?
As I said, I just want to go out there and count how much space we have. If we're not going over the space we have, I don't think it's an issue, right?
Well, I guess we could say just 77, because we know that's 77 stalls you have. I don't know.
Well,
right?
we have the 77 plus the overflow, right? Or
you have 64,
right?
You have 64 paved spaces, if I counted that correctly. And then you have approximately in the unpaved lot, you probably got room. It's about the same width as the double tier parking lot. So you have a new room for about 44 more cars in there, if they're all packed as tightly as in the paved space.
That's 108, Rob.
Yeah.
66 and 44.
Yeah.
So 110 total.
108.
66 and 44.
Oh, he said 64.
I said 64.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So it's close. Yeah, it's close. Okay. That's good enough.
I'm just saying, that's how I come up to 100 is
sure.
Told me by how many people come to a game.
Understood.
That's it. Is there anything else amongst the commission? that we need to talk about with this and for a recommendation to the city council?
Yeah, I do have a
Hey, Tim.
couple items.
Yeah, please.
Wait,
Um,
Tim, before you get that far,
Yeah.
Barry, can you state where is that information from on the parking spaces?
I'm actually looking at an aerial photograph of it and counting them.
Okay, and so can you explain the location again? I didn't quite catch it.
There's 64 parking spaces in the paved parking lot and approximately 44 in the overflow parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That helps.
Ken? Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing as far as the traffic goes, I know 6650 south, it's not improved, it's narrow, and there's no speed limit even posted on that section of street. So I would just recommend that we get a speed limit posted on that section of the road. And I am concerned that it is narrow and there's no sidewalk on that section of road, that I was looking at supporting the right turn only until we have a better collection of the traffic on 6650, that we try to limit the amount of traffic that goes through that area. That would be one thing.
Can I just clarify, Tim, you're talking about right turn only out of the parking lot onto South Weaver Drive, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I would recommend that, or some other idea of removing traffic from going through that adjacent neighborhood.
Are you suggesting that we just do that by signage, or is there some other method that you're thinking about? The right turn only.
I'm open to your suggestion and Brandon's suggestion to the city council to help eliminate, some of that traffic cutting through there. So the only thing I can think of right now is just a right turn only exiting, and that cuts out half. I'm not into enforcement, but I know that's going to eliminate half if people obey the law.
Okay.
So, and then my other item would be the buffer yard. It just hasn't been addressed at all. It's poorly done currently. I think it has a purpose of both a combination of some sounds and visibility. And I would just recommend that we actually achieve the goal. We take the entire length of, their boundary along the east side of their property, and just put a row of column pillar type of a shrub. I wouldn't recommend a tree, because I don't think we need a tree that's 50 to 100 feet tall. I think we need a shrub, a columnar type, like those, like a buckthorn, or I looked up a plant that I happen to have. I didn't know the name of it, but it's an arbor vitae. Are you familiar with those?
Arborvitae.
Arborvitae, thank you. Which makes a really nice, it's just a hedge basically. And, they grow 15 feet tall, and they create a great visual buffer, and I think it works.
No doubt that the buffer yard has to be dealt with, even if it's got to be something. I appreciate that, Tim.
Yeah, and you just plant one, get it done. Just plant one every couple feet, and they grow fast, and you've got that buffer.
Yeah, I'd recommend that.
Tim, I need to clarify something there as well. You're talking
Sure.
about the entire east property line?
I would recommend that, just visually, just because of the looks of that building. I think it would add a nice green visual along the lower part of that building if you went the entire length, just to have a nice green field. You could still see the building over the top of this shrub, but yet the lower part, the lower 15, 20 feet, whatever the height of this shrub is, it doesn't project into either property very far, that type of a, you know, a pillar type of a shrub. But it creates a nice visual. And it's like, why not? You know, we've had a lot of problems. We've got, you know, some definite problems as far as breaking the CUP recently. And so I think this is a simple request. We've given in to allow some extended hours, 7 days a week, in my opinion. And I think it's something that both the city has and the developer should perform on that buffer the entire length of the property. And that would be my recommendation.
Well,
I just want to point out that the fire lane that's right adjacent to the building actually goes right to the property line.
So we don't have an extra 2 feet?
Not, I mean, there is right up against the building, but not on the property line.
So in the conditional use permit number 16-05, there is a thing in there saying that the buffer yard plan be submitted and approved, which was completed. I think Tim, and I haven't seen that buffer plan, but I think what we're asking is that it be implemented.
Well, that buffer yard that's referring to was actually only adjacent to one adjacent residential property. The buffer yard was not required anywhere else other than adjacent to residential property. So that's a pretty limited area.
Okay.
Tim's talking about something expanding. It's not actually a buffer yard because it doesn't meet our definition of a buffer yard, but you're talking about landscaping to somewhat partially screen the building.
Yeah, that'd be my recommendation. And also the entire length of the residential, you know, zone on that west side or east side.
I think that's a great recommendation. That cleans up what was in the past. We just know what it's got to be and just move on.
The past buffer yard that was planted, and it doesn't serve any purpose. It doesn't work.
I think that's fair.
It didn't accomplish what I think the goal, and I think we have an opportunity to accomplish the goal. So let's do that.
I agree with that. I think it eliminates, you know, let's ask Mr. Skank what he thinks, and then let's go back and forth and argue about it.
Right. No.
End of story and end of
let's
discussion.
don't get, we don't need the approval of someone else. We just need to put in a visual buffer that achieves the purpose. I think we can.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? If you're going to include that in a motion, that you state something to the effect that it's a large shrub that is appropriate to our climate, that grows at least 8 feet or 10 feet, what number you want to put in there. Because there are a number of possibilities that you could use, but you just want to identify a height, basically. Is that right?
Yeah, a height and width. Because I don't know that we need something that's wide.
Right.
Achieve anything, but I think it needs to be at least a couple feet wide.
Yeah, but we don't care if it's, I mean, if it's that tall, it's going to be at least a couple feet wide. We don't care if it's wider, right?
No, that's true.
I think you're probably okay just specifying a height.
You said they go to 15 feet?
Well, there's all kinds of different shrubs you could plant in there that accomplish that. Different hedge type plants. Some of them do grow that tall. Some don't.
Grow 15, 20 feet.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the last 2 weeks I've been a parking lot specialist, and now I'm a horticulturalist. So I think 15 feet's the number. Sounds like. Is it guaranteed not to blow over?
And that's
good luck with that one.
What's that, Tim?
I'd say that's why I do like the shrub, because they don't have the same problem that you get with a tall tree. And these actually will buffer the sound a lot better. And a shrub would actually do better with sound and light.
Okay. Okay.
What's your spacing?
That's a good point.
I
You-
think
you
it
want 'em-
needs-
You want them so that their mature growth overlaps each other.
Yes, yeah, so I think they need to be within, you know, a couple. I'm glancing towards the ones I have in my yard, but they're, you know, they're only a couple feet apart. It seems like 3 feet apart probably.
Well, I don't think we should try to be landscape architects, but if we can in
Right.
some way describe what we want and the effect we want, then
Height of 15 feet and a solid shrub. Solid wall,
Solid screen.
solid screen.
Are you talking the entire length of? If you remember right, back in 2016, the code was actually rewritten partially because of our property, because it was going to be it read that any residential property border had to have a buffer zone. And it was rewritten to read any residential property that could actually be built on had to have a buffer zone, because it was going to be so cost prohibitive. Again, we weren't going to do the project if we had to do that barrier around our entire property. It was crazy. So, and everybody agreed at the time that we should just have to do buffer zone between the housing and our property. And that's why we put up.
That's true, Kelly, but that was it's different than what they're talking about. That buffer yard entailed a lot more plants.
Yeah.
And
that's what's there, and it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These aren't that expensive, and it's something that's very doable.
Okay.
And it's a recommendation city council can review and decide what they want to achieve. But in my opinion, from what I've seen and heard from this complex and the way it's operating, and the way things have gone in the past, I would like to see that minimum height of 15 feet, solid screen wall shrub along the length of the property, just on the east side.
Even into the fire zone or the
fire lane.
Fire lane, yeah. Sorry, thanks.
Yeah, I'm confused with that because what's the width on that fire lane? Because at that event, there were so many cars parked on both sides of the fire lane. And
Well, there's the lane, the actual graded roadway goes right up to the property line, but then there's an equal width. I don't know what that is, 15 feet or so between that and the building. That's not planted, you know, it's just growing native grasses and stuff there.
It just seemed like there was plenty of width for the fire lane and to have a couple feet for a shrub along there.
There is. It's just not going to be. There is room. It's just not on the property line. It's up against the building.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
So that might be the other thing is in that area to request that it be along the building.
Are there lights along that side of the building?
Could that be a fire hazard?
Yeah. Why do we want it next to the building? I don't understand.
Again, it's that visual.
Okay. I'm not sure, and I'm not sure about that. I think if it's on the property line, I mean, that's not unreasonable, but I don't know if that's the building. Kelly, how about you repaint that building? Now I could go for that.
You know, at one point the mayor actually talked to, she went to a convention or something and came back and thought it would be cool to paint it with like South Weber history stuff. I was all for it, but then I think they decided once it started chipping off that metal, it wouldn't be nice to maintain. So,
well, if you paint BLM brown, it will hide in the license.
Smith and Edwards got a sale on camouflage paint.
Don't do paint, just do plants. You know, that's.
I don't want to sit and look at this forever on that. I think we've established it should be the length of the property on that east side, and that will give the visual, I think, Tim, that you're looking for.
Yeah, it would.
Not exactly, but it'll give you a better visual.
Mhm.
So
The property that's immediately adjacent to the east there, that's in a restricted development zone. So that's never going to be developed in there.
I'm not talking about whether it can be developed or not, Wes. I'm just talking
Right.
about visually driving in that area, and it's a commercial building, has a commercial use. Why not have something that's attractive up to a certain point? You'll still see the building above it, but why not have something that looks good, looks nice?
Recommend it and see what the city council says.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They do what they want. I just
Did
want to
not
get
have
Blair
the time
to
to
look
listen
up,
to us.
make sure he was awake.
okay. Anything else on your thing, Tim? On your list?
I think the fence should be repaired. Just anytime it's broken, it should be repaired. And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of who, but I recommend that the fence be repaired.
Okay.
It has holes in it.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, they were supposed to be here this week, and apparently they've been really busy with the storm repairing down fences, I guess. So I'm taking care of that. Actually, Trevor ran through it with his tractor a couple of weeks ago in front of a bunch of us. So yeah, it definitely needs repair.
Did we have a storm?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anything else, Tim? That's a good point. I think the fence needs to be maintained.
Those are my only.
Anybody else have any things on their list that we haven't covered?
I recommend Tim make a motion.
I do too.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the conditional use permit 16-05, subject to the original CUP 16-05 with the 4 requirements and the 6 additional conditions imposed. And then adding hours of operation, 6 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Repair the fencing.
Can we make an exception for New Year's Eve?
Sure.
Okay.
And then recommend a right turn only upon exit from the premises. Recommend posting a speed limit sign on 6650 South.
The city does that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And recommend 108 car maximum on site.
Okay.
And recommend a buffer screen of some type of, what did you call it, Barry? Native shrub with a minimum height of 15 feet and a solid hedge wall.
Can we not say native plant, but I guess say appropriate to the climate. There are a lot of non-native plants that are appropriate to the climate.
Appropriate to the climate plant. And did I mention repair the fence?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd be more comfortable with 100 cars. It's easier to keep track of. And Barry said that it's packed in there on the temporary gravel pad. I just think hundreds and just a round number everybody can remember.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Anything else?
And
You got everything on my list, so.
Tim, can I, maybe not appropriate for me to interrupt right now, but I just wanted to point out on the 1605 CUP, that top table is really irrelevant at this point. So if in its final form, I don't see any point in keeping that. It's just, I think it may cause some confusion.
the which? The
table that shows, not complete.
Oh, yeah, I know what the one with the X's in it.
Yes.
Show the items required though.
I'm not looking at the table, so yeah, I'm fine with that table not being included.
Okay.
And
I was going off.
The statements were that we carry forward the items 1 through 4 that are listed at the bottom of the first page of that CUP, and then
The
additional
additional,
operation that are changed.
the additional 6 items
Yes.
that were imposed. So we have the original 4, the additional 6, and then the changes that I recommended tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a second on it.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate that. All in favor, roll call. Commissioner Walton,
Aye.
Commissioner Boatright.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Tim,
Aye.
Commissioner Rob. Aye. Very good. Thank you. We're recommending that to the City Council. Next item on the agenda is the discussion of Stevens property concept design. Marty, I hope you're in good voice.
Hi. Well, thank you for giving me some time here. I just want to say thanks to, all of the members of the community who have given their input. We've done a few focus groups on this project since we last met earlier this year. As a member of the community, I really feel like, we've put together a piece that I'm proud of, and I think that our community can be proud of. And so I'd also like to make a little introduction. I have one of my cohorts here with Blue Ox Development, Aaron Robertson, and I'd like to give him a few minutes to kind of talk through the concepts that we've refined.
My understanding is you guys have gotten a packet from us. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I sit and watch, I probably hit 1 or 2 of these a week. It's always fascinating to come to a new community and see the dynamics on how you guys do your jobs. But I haven't seen any of them do them from their living room couches. So you have the most comfortable seat in the state, so enjoy. We've got, as Marty mentioned, the more people that we talk to about our property, the more ideas we came to, and everyone has their own little vision of what this should look like. And I'm sure each one of you is the same way on what you want it to be. And what we are trying to do is come up with a vision that is palatable to the community and beneficial to the community, and financially prudent for us as developers. So we're trying to merge, that dichotomy of what works and what doesn't versus what people want and what they don't want. As we've gone through some iterations and had lots of conversations, my purpose tonight is to accomplish just a couple quick things. As we've talked with your staff about kind of process and how to get this all the way done, what I'm looking for tonight is to integrate some of the conversation from this high level. We're talking about a zone change and applying some of your code to this property, pulling up some of the detail that people are interested in. It's our expectation that we can create a development agreement that leaves flexibility and mirrors a lot of what you already have in your code, while bringing in some key development items or details of what the development looks like, without creating a lot of stringency that we want to come in and change later, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Can I do a screen share here? Is that allowed?
Yeah, Kim, can you give him a screen share? I think you got to give him this.
I'm gonna see if I can allow him to share. Okay, try that. See if you can share now. Because I have that screen set up if you need me to share it.
Okay, and I can do it either way. There's what I wanted to do is start, well, probably want to start with sharing. Let's see, we got too many things going on here. I want to share a picture of our of the, there we go. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yep.
So as this has gone out and was shared on some of your community pages, we started watching the comments come in, some of the likes, some of the dislikes. And one of the comments that came in that was, well, this is just what they shared before, you know, it's very similar. And I 100% agree with some of the similarities, but we're going to talk about some of the differences as well. And I want to talk about why we've laid out what we have and what we're looking for. As you look at this, what I want you to see is not the pretty green and the nice circles and the fun little sidewalks. What I want you to see is 10 acres of commercial and 7 acres of a medium density residential. Because that's kind of the level of this conversation. This conversation is what can we put here that benefits the community and will be marketable from a development standpoint. And that's been a lot of the back and forth. So I don't want to be committing to, you know, exact layouts and things that we're not at that point in the conversation. I think what I really want to focus in on is the idea that we want 10 acres commercial on this 7 acres and roughly 7 acres of what we're going to deem a residential use. And within both of that, within your zoning code, you naturally get a certain amount of green space that we're trying to cluster around and use for some community purposes. If I click over here, did that switch for you guys?
No.
You a pretty bowl of fruit at this point?
I think you got to go back.
You have to stop sharing and then reshare.
Okay. Stop share. And then share screen. Is it this one or I want to do?
Those are both powerful.
Yeah, that's this
It was a slideshow. It was not.
one. Okay. Now do we see a bowl of fruit?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to click through this real quick because we talked with the community. Some of the feedback that we got, as is common in what we do, wasn't so much about what the use was or how many acres was the right acreage for certain uses, or what it looked like and what it felt like. One of the big things is, and I, you know, we heard this over and over, is well, we don't want barracks. Well, we can create some design criteria within a development agreement that's not barrack-like. Whether we show that accurately in these pictures or not, the idea of pick what features that you would like to see in your community or in the design whether it's staggering the fronts, whether it's roof lines. There's a lot of architectural details that can be called out in a development agreement to create a look and feel that is attractive. And so while we are pushing for the residential, I think it's important to note within this development agreement, it gives us and you some ability to really kind of negotiate on some of that look so that it feels like you want it to feel. And we're not just a straight R7 zone where I get to do whatever I want. You guys can't say no. The development agreement gives you guys a little bit of flexibility to say, we'll allow this, but we need it to look a certain way. As we looked at the retail component, same sort of thing. Let's identify some of the key points in the retail that pull in this kind of quaint feel that you guys are trying to maintain within your community, but still, allow it to be marketable. If we want to limit it to one story or a certain height restriction, if you want to create facades that have, different finishes or things on the front, those are the conversations, and that's the kind of the feedback that we'd like to see popping up in our development agreement. What we heard a lot was, some community areas or some gathering spaces that can be used. We've done a couple projects where that's the case, where they're not, it's a public space, a public park, whatever, but it really kind of helps facilitate small events that I think the community would enjoy having, whatever those may be. This is not something that I'm proposing that, we rent out and have, wedding catered events and things. These are more public events, and we create another location where those can be held and facilitated. Some more ideas on some possible storefronts on what this looks like. Just not this is what we're doing, but we just want to get your minds going on what could be here. All these pictures could be facilitated in the plan and draft that we started looking at. We want to tip our hat at some larger users that are willing to come into certain spaces that have a defined look. If the user wants to be there, they'll do it. If the user doesn't want to be there, they won't do it. And so those are community restrictions that you're placing on yourself and what retailers you want to see. We had the idea of a possible small amphitheater that, Ogden has several of these. Other communities have several small little amphitheaters that get used for various purposes. Maybe this would work in your community, maybe it wouldn't. Just throwing out some ideas. One of the big highlights that came out of your last meeting was desire for some historical elements and pay homage to the Kingston Fort that was once there. We love that idea. Creating all these ideas, when we create a design theme and we pull some of this together, it creates a very destination feel and for all these different uses where it ties together and becomes more marketable. And so while, I'm not necessarily promising a 40-foot bronze sculpture, the idea that we want to do something that helps tie this together and create this communal feel and pay homage to what's been there, we're 100% on board with that, whatever that may look like. I don't want to, go through a lot of fine points on this, but I did want to kind of give some of the thought process that went into this. When we look at, so I stopped sharing. If I want to go back to my original, I got to screen share again. Is that what we're thinking?
Go to the terms page.
I want to go to this one again. Okay. So coming back to where we started a little bit, you can see that these residential units, we've staggered a little bit. We've created some meandering sidewalks, so it's not linear. We've we've buried our residential kind of around our commercial. As we head what would be east on Old Fort Road, and you get into more of a residential feel, we integrate that into our design, so you start to feel that more residential feel, but you're not staring at a lot of residential. We're trying to break this up on our long front, so you have a little bit of commercial, a little bit of residential, and create those transitions and still create some of that buffering. You know, we're looking at your traffic patterns. We're trying to think of what's marketable, what's not marketable. But the PUD, the concepts are, we want mostly commercial, a little bit of residential, and facilitate, you know, this quaint community feel that seems to be the prevailing mindset. As we do that, our development agreement is the meat and potatoes of how that happens. Right? Yep. And so we've just called out some bullet points that, again, I expect that you guys saw in your packets. And this is where we would hope to get some feedback and where your recommendations go. Obviously, based on the process that's been recommended to us, we're not looking for a vote tonight, but we definitely do want some feedback and some recommendations going to City Council saying, hey, we like this, we don't like this, here's the idea, here's the tweaks to what's being presented that we recommend. What I don't want is and you did a great job with your you know, last conversation on this conditional use permit with La Roca is the idea that, I mean, you guys kind of pick that apart and identify what you want to recommend. We want the same thing. Recommend something to the City Council, whether it's what I want or not. Let's keep this conversation going so that, you know, you can identify what you do and don't like about our presentation. Well, not presentation per se, but what's being presented as far as a development concept. Some key points in this, you know, our commercial, you know, here's a few uses. I think that your highway commercial zone has, you know, identifies a lot of uses, and we're trying to mirror that to an extent. We're trying to mirror the residential based on the R7 within your code, so it's not feeling unfamiliar with anybody in planning or in your community. As we look at those open spaces, we see some of these uses, the amphitheater, the playground, trail systems, we're seeing some of that play in. And these are just some of the ideas really that came from your citizens. As we talked about what, you know, we get one person say, well, as long as you can do whatever you want, as long as you don't do this. And then the next person would stand up, well, if you do this, that's fine, but I don't want that. And so this really is kind of us picking and choosing what works and doesn't work from a cohesive development concept. We do like having a lot of heavy landscaping in there, looking at a 25% landscape requirement. We are looking, you know, trying to pay attention to some of the open common areas. We are trying to listen, but still judiciously kind of pick and say, does that work or not work? With that being said, are questions that I might be able to answer on what we're trying to present?
I still hate the storage units.
Me too.
What else would go there behind the power lines?
Do you see another use along underneath your power lines that makes more sense?
That's a good question. Just the storage units really, as Rob has said many times before in our last meeting with you guys, you know, this is one of our prime commercial properties or potential commercial properties, and storage units, they don't bring anything really to the city.
I would disagree with that. speaking to the owner of the South Weaver storage units. One storage unit facility that we have in our town. It is at capacity, and it is been at capacity. And we're driving our community's storage needs to other.
No, I'm not talking, I'm talking about tax revenue for the
Well,
city.
sure, but our city needs storage stuff. And if you're saying this is prime commercial property, where else would you be putting storage units?
Still don't
Not
like
on
it.
that property.
Okay.
You asked for my opinion, I gave it.
I think to be a little bit more constructive though too, we could also say maybe give us some concept ideas of what those storage units might look like, because they are widely varied in their architectural approaches, right? So as I look at it,
I appreciate the comment. Are there some things, you know, what would make it more appealing to you? Because different people have different opinions on that. You know, if we do a masonry wall with that's a little bit more decorative all the way around, so you can't see them, and where they're buried in the back of the property, is that helpful? Or location is a problem, or construction style? What's your thought process?
Yeah. So my thought process is this: is I'm looking at what you've provided in this site plan. If I'm going to buy a townhome or whatever they'll be on that most northern boundary, what do I want to look at when I step out my front door? And I know that's going to be subjective, but I think 9 times out of 10, I don't think anybody really wants to be looking at a cinder block wall. And so what do we visualize there? What do we conceptualize? That's a really great question. And I'm just, you guys did a great job. I want to commend you for reaching out to the citizens and trying to get a concept plan that communicates the feel of South Weaver. That was great. I just don't see it in the concept plans for the storage units. And so, like I say, I'm not the expert on what storage units can look like and what industry standards are, but that's the one piece of the conceptualization that I'm missing here, because I think everything else I'm following, but I agree the storage units are this block that's sitting out there that I'm not sure if I feel comfortable with that interface between residential and that commercial use.
Okay.
I agree with you, Taylor.
I appreciate that. Let's put that. Let's put that on a shelf. What other comments do we have on the concept being presented?
So as far as reaching out to the community, how many people in your focus groups were neighbors who live across the street from this?
We had one in particular who was a resident, is a resident of the barracks, as they're affectionately called.
Yeah, we don't call them that anymore. It's Freedom Landing Townhomes.
Thank you. But yes, Freedom, yeah, and she was asking how well family oriented will this site be, and I think that's one of our guiding principles and objectives with this site is keeping this family friendly, making this so that she can bring her children who are young, to a place that she can feel safe with and enjoy and benefit from. And I'd also we had a few members from the Canyon Meadows neighborhood. I don't know if you would consider that neighbor or not. It's kind of a half a block away. Gary, how would you describe it?
That's fine. You're answering my question. So I just, this is really going to impact those people who mostly live across the street from this property, but also the surrounding neighborhood. So I think if you're going to include some public feedback or public review, you need to make sure that you reach out to those residents. That's especially important in my mind.
But I think there's been an effort to do that, as well as those that are most vocal in the community. I think we've tried to cast as wide as net as we could on that. Not to say that we're done either, because that's not the case.
So
comments.
I mean, I have a question.
Yeah.
about the gas station. I think we know who it is, but here the thing with that is, how do you make a gas station look like the rest of that Kingston Village versus what I know that they're used to building, if I can say it that way.
Well, this comes, at the end of the day, you collectively as the city, as opposed to individuals, are going to make a recommendation, or are going to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, these are the things we want, and these are the things we don't want. And you're going to create some limitations on us. You're going to create some barriers that we have to work within. And bottom line is, the gas station that you're thinking of, maybe it doesn't come. And maybe if they don't come, maybe we don't do the project, and we say, well, we appreciate that. We don't do it, we walk away. At the end of the day, we're trying to propose some concepts and ideas that can and will work. And as we tweak and torture those, there's a point where it'll work and we'll move ahead. And there's a point inches farther where it won't work and we'll back away. So it's not us telling you what you can and can't do with the community. If you make some restrictions where the gas stations aren't going to comply, you won't see a gas station there. And at that point, we'll make a decision whether we want to move ahead or not. We may or may not. So I'm not going to, I know a couple gas stations might be interested. We're in conversations with one, but.
Well, Aaron, we've learned our lesson on a few things. Not that we don't like the gas station we've got, but we've learned some things. We've learned some things about how high the signage can be and what kind of lighting it can be. And we just learned some things that we really don't want to repeat those mistakes again. And we, quite frankly, would like it to fit into the feel that you're trying to build with the village, right? And so, I mean, the concept of the gas station we have today, it would not drop right into the middle of that Kingston Village the way it sits down there on South River Drive. So there'd be some things that, I would think that we'd want to change it up a little bit. And I just wondered how agreeable that would be to that particular client of yours.
Well, the answer to that question, quite frankly, I can't answer because I'm not them. But there is going to be, we know from past experience that there are lines that they're willing to accommodate. You mentioned lighting requirements and height of signs. As long as those are still reasonable and they like it, the answer is going to be yes. When you say, we don't want any red on your sign or any blue on your sign, well, all of a sudden, half of 3/4 of your gas station tenants were like, we're all red, we're all blue, we go away. So those requirements, as you think through what you might want to put there, that will make the difference between success or not on getting those people there. But, if you tell a gas station, hey, we want you to soften some of your lighting and create more directional and things like that, there's going to be some things that most communities are already asking, and they're going to be willing to comply.
And that's what I'm driving at. I don't give a crap about the color, but what, illumination and how bright and is it flashing and all those kinds of things are what we're finding out that probably we shouldn't have allowed.
So those are the things that we need listed out in your recommendation. And maybe it doesn't make the list today, but those are the things that need to show up in that development agreement. And as long as they're not too onerous, we're on board.
So I'm a little confused. I'm uncomfortable writing the development agreement for you guys. I would rather see you guys write it for us and then let us redline it.
Which would be my expectation. If I alluded it otherwise, what I'm looking for is that list from you of things you want to see in that agreement, so we make sure that they're there. So when you get that draft agreement, you're like, well, we talked about these 20 things. Well, we want to see that list written out of the 20 things that, not that what I often get in these meetings, is, and your previous soccer guy was a perfect example. 100 things were talked about, but only certain things made the list, right? And so what I want is, I want the list so that we don't go back and say, well, we talked about in that meeting. Well, we talked about everything in the meeting. What I need is the list that we're including in the development agreement.
Sure.
Hey, Rob,
Yeah, Tim.
I was just going to mention that I have seen particular gas stations in other community, and they have changed the architecture.
Okay.
Sure thing.
So I'm overall, I'm not really wowed. I almost feel like that you just kind of moved a few puzzle pieces around and, you know, added the token historic park in there. I still see the spot up there that looks like a square for the hotel. The hotel's not listed on there anymore. I don't know. I was hoping for a little bit more. I think I do like where you're going with the design of it and the look of buildings and that, but I don't feel that much of our last discussion was really heavily incorporated into this. And that, again, that's just my opinion. My fellow commissioners may disagree with me, but I just.
When you say wow, is it the uses that you want us to wow you with, or is it the design? What is it, the wow that you're looking for?
So it's hard to look at this and then you say, well, this commercial. Well, you know, give us ideas of what's going to go in here.
Well, I think
types
that
of things.
hesitation is just that. I'm just going to give you ideas. I'm not going to make a commitment to bring Sportsman's Warehouse or Cabela's or, you know, some ski lodge or something. We're talking about a PUD that's going to present vested rights for us to go in and figure out how to develop. Vested rights in commercial uses, vested rights in residential uses. For example, you know, we started the conversation with you know, storage units. We have a concept of short storage units. Does that work without the storage units and we still have more commercial? Potentially. But I'm not in a position where I'm going to try and convince you to say yes to my development because I got a really awesome user. That's really cool. No offense, I come from Cody, Wyoming. We're rural as it gets. Cowboy boots were the shoe of choice in my school growing up. I understand rural fields and rural communities. But the flip side of that coin is the moment you take your community on that trajectory, you limit the potential uses that are coming there. You know, and you guys aren't big proponents of high density. I get it, that's fine. You've turned high density down on this site. This site would be great for high density. If you don't want high density, that's okay. If you don't want a great big business park, that's fine. But there's a point where when you say no to all these other ideas, where you start wondering, what are you saying yes to? And if you're just going to say yes to, you know, the current field that's there, that's sad.
Well, nobody's opposed to that, just so you know.
I understand that, but you know, that's indentured servitude to the property owner that doesn't want to farm anymore. You know, we're dealing with that in several communities where you got old people that are trying to retire and sell the property, and they want to retire off to sell their farm, right? And so, not saying this guy does or doesn't need that money for his retirement, but the idea of the key component of your city coming right off the freeway, I agree. Let's do something fun and cool. And you guys are the interpreters of what that may or may not look like. But let's be clear on the idea of what, you know, cool factor is. If you're looking for me to wow on users, there's no way I can do that. We can talk about percentage of commercial. That's a fair conversation, but I can't guarantee any uses. Nobody
Well,
will.
you must have something in mind, though, or are you just really saying commercial? I mean, somebody came up with a gas station. Somebody
Right.
had
There's
some
a gas
conversations with the
And we
company.
have all the things showing the concept there's interest on, but we don't have any contracts on that. And they're not offering contracts on hotels or these storage units. And those are not contingencies. Storage units aren't the contingency to make this work. The mix of residential and acreage and commercial acreage kind of is. But, you know, we're looking for commercial uses that are approved and the amount of space that's commercial. And we're looking for the design components that get pulled into that. If we can't have that discussion and you want to base it on users, you know, your code doesn't define users, it defines uses. What can we put there? And that's what we want to focus on.
So help me understand why is it I keep seeing the same map over and over and over again?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I feel like, right, Marty? And so I want to see a whole big design, put it on a 3D map, whatever you got to do. Let's really, so I can walk through it, look at it and go, oh yeah, that's cool. Nah, that doesn't work for me. And then I can really give you feedback. But I don't feel like I can give you much feedback the way this sits.
The
Well,
concept board was that.
Let me ask, well, I'm happy to do a 3D walkthrough on a concept. That costs me money. If you gave me feedback on this pretty map that you're not wowed by and said, hey, you know, I can get behind some of these uses, again, going back to the word uses, and your recommendation is along hypothetically, I mean, again, we're not voting on anything. We're talking about uses that I think are palatable. I can give you some wow presentation, but I'm not going to spend, you know, tens of thousands of dollars on a wow presentation when I have, you know, 4 city city commissioners, sorry, saying I don't like any of this. Well, then I'm not going to do it. But if you guys saying I like the residential, I like the direction you're going, we could explore some different uses, and here's the 10 uses we can look at, I can do that. We can do a great presentation. We're great at 3D modeling. We do it all the time. But I got to get farther down the road.
I'm ready to have that conversation. Can we start your concept board? If that's okay, unless there's another comment from the commission.
One of the things that I see, the self-storage units, there's not revenue generators for the city. And those could go, because one of the things there is you're going to be tearing out 3 acres of trees, which would be a buffer to the noise off of Interstate 84 to any condominiums that you build along that area. Those trees
the
would be a
trees
better
still there?
buffer than the self-storage units. I'd get rid of those storage units. 2 reasons. They're not, they don't bring revenue to the city, and you're tearing out a bunch of trees to open up the noise coming in off of I-84. The houses along Old Fort Road, those condominiums there, Old Fort Road is going to become a major road in the future. Once that gets built all the way through and that area gets developed along the frontage adjacent to I-84, you're going to see a lot more traffic there. And having those 4 condominiums right there is going to be a hazard to the people that live there and to people driving on the road. I'd like to see that entire front area through there along Old Fort Road to be commercial. The other thing is I only see 1 entry into this, and that's between the 3.99 acre commercial and the gas station. I don't see any other entries into this area. You're going to have at least 2 more entries into this development to be safe. So, you know, start off, get rid of the storage units. There's going to be plenty of opportunity down the road in other areas of the city that storage units can go in, especially to the west end of the city. And the traffic along Old Fort Road is going to be a major issue with any houses pushed up against Old Fort Road there. The historic park, I think that could be made enlarged, and also the discussion about an amphitheater right next to those condominiums. Those people that are in the condominiums are going to start complaining about the activities that are going on in the amphitheater. If the amphitheater was somewhere else, then you're going to have a better concept there.
Let me ask you this real quick on the amphitheater. That's an idea of something we could do. Do you even want to see it at all? Do you see that as a benefit or a negative?
I think it'd be a benefit. Depends on what
I think for me, it's a matter of where it's conceptualized in your site plan.
Right.
Are you talking? I don't know if it's in the middle of the housing component or if it's something somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Because I love the idea of an amphitheater.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of where it is.
Somewhere else. Got it. Thank you.
You know, a lot of the what you've put in there as far as what your rendition of the various shops and stuff, those would fit very well. We've had community members send stuff to us in the past. Sarah Perry and Amy Mitchell, the concepts that they've sent to the Planning Commission are very good about what could be put into this. I know you're trying to anchor the condominiums because that's where the money is. I think you've got too many, and by having too many, then you're going to lose the appeal of the commercial in that area. People aren't going to want to drive past somebody's condominium to go shopping in a boutique type store. I think if you could.
Farmington Station, Riverwoods.
What do you think is the right number?
I'd say half.
And why are you arriving at that number?
It's just, I see it as a little bit too dense for that area.
Too dense or too many? Because those are two different things in my opinion.
Too many.
And so if I had 24 units, you think that makes sense? And you're just, if I'm understanding correctly, you're just kind of visually arbitrarily picking that number, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing that says this has to be R7 in here.
Nope, nope. I appreciate all those. What other good and bad feedback do we have on this? And some of this I want to back on, but I want to get it all out first.
So if I can, I'd like to present my ideas to you, at least in the order that you gave them to us, right? So I've got the concept board in front of me, and I like everything that you presented. I feel like I'm being presented a choice on slides 5 and 8, or I'm sorry, 5 and 6, on the retail storefront concepts.
Yeah.
And if this is only my opinion, and look to have maybe the other commissioners have a conversation about this, but I really like the concepts on slide 6 over the one on 5.
Like is most appealing to you? What are the
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
On what specific things on slide 6 are you most attracted to?
On slide 6, I think it meets that small town feel. I think the scale is appropriate. And just in essence, I don't see what you presented in 5 fitting South Weaver. And I don't quite, I think it's the amount of maybe glass or I wish I could give you more specifics, but I do feel like what you present in 6 fits.
Okay. Perfect.
I think the park and amphitheater is a great idea. It's just a matter of how you put that in the site plan that I would like to see and get a better idea of scope. I like the memorial concept. I'm not opposed to that, but I think it could be blended probably in the amphitheater as well. So that I'm good on. The site plan itself, I hit on where the amphitheater would go and how that fits. I'll echo Commissioner Johnson's comments about how that public space or quasi-public space in between the housing, I don't know quite how that will play. You know, we'll have another concept or another maybe conversation with future property owners of, hey, I want everybody out of that plaza at 10 o'clock. And I just want to see that developed a little bit more. So maybe we have a blended approach where we have some shops that surround the plaza versus homes, and then maybe blend that residential use back. I love the meandering approach, the nonlinear sidewalks and site plan, that works. So we talked about the site plan as it relates to the storage units. I'm not opposed to storage units. It's just a matter of how you put them on the site and what kind of visual impairments, light, those kind of nuisance might be mitigated. I just don't have enough information there. Gas station has been covered. And if I'm going to go back to your letter, terms of development, I'm not married to a percentage here. And maybe a question to you all. You guys mentioned that provide a mechanism to ensure the development of a commercial space. Around 30% of that site would be commercial. How did you arrive at that percentage?
So fair question. And the short answer is kind of thumb in the wind judgment call based on some other things that we've done. We recognize that the commercial is the driving force of what I think is beneficial in the city. And so we looked at that and said, hey, if we're developing 30% of the commercial right out of the gate, then it shows goodwill coming from the developer. Maybe we develop all of it, to be determined. Nate Harbison, who's worked hard on this, maybe he's got a long list of commercial guys that would all just run in the door and set up shop, and the residential is last. But as we've had conversations with, to point, we have ideas of what may go there, but nobody's, married to this. But as we've had conversations with different people, the underlying commercial driver is rooftops, and that is not South Weaver's strong point. And that's not changing anytime soon. So there is a shopping habit of people who live in a townhome. When you bring townhome and some of that density together, those type of people tend to traditionally, not always, like to shop local. They're the ones that are going to walk to the stores. And so when we bring in that type of housing product, people become more interested. And so we arrived on these densities based on kind of a thumb in the wind. What do we think will work based on the conversations we've had? Is that a hard and fast? Yep. Is it hard? No, mainly just fast. And so
I know Commissioner Johnson. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Cut you off. I know Commissioner Johnson has a number in mind. I don't. I want to see context on the site plan before I'm willing to say the density, or I'm sorry, the land use percentages are correct. Because I don't want to give up what could be a nice public amenity because we're forcing a percentage on commercial development, right? And I think that's maybe the wow factor that we're looking for. How does it benefit the community most?
Commissioner Walton, a question for clarification on that. And anyone else that has a strong opinion on this. Based on previous feedback, we've really kind of pushed to this R7 concept as we've laid this out. Is there an attitude to accept a higher density within a smaller area on the units? For example, let's put 30 units into 2.5 acres, as long as we're keeping it under 2 levels. Is that more appealing or less appealing?
I think you're getting back. If we go that direction, we're going to have a lot of people saying, "Gee, that's nothing but the lofts all over again." And
right.
That's what we don't want.
Okay.
We learned our lesson there.
So I would counter that only to say that the projected land use that we have on this area is not a mixed use. Well, let me rephrase. It is not an R7. We want to see what you can do. Yeah, we want to see what you can do that provides, the amenities that you guys have gotten great feedback on, and try to figure out what the right balance is for you financially, what the right balance is for the city, in whether it's density or height of structures. I think to Wes's point, we've got a lot of feedback that height is a concern. Some of the sizing of the units is going to be a concern, but overall, how do you park it all? And that's what I'm trying to really drive in my comment is that I don't want to be beholden to like a certain percentage of commercial and then drive some kind of weird mix use of uses that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't pencil, right? I don't want to limit your creativity and design potential here by a particular percentage.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
One of the things that I go back to is the plan that was put together by, I believe it was Horrocks and Associates on, Parsons and Brinkerhoff back in July 2008. They've got a concept plan for the Stevens property in there that would work quite well. I'm not sure what pages aren't numbered, but it's at the end of section 5. It talks about the West Gateway area plan. And that conceptual plan there would fit this very well. There might be room for some condominiums in that, but overall, I think you're headed in the right direction. Let me say that. But you've got a few extra steps you're going to have to take.
Is there a possibility we could get a copy of that?
The city has a copy of it.
So, and you call it the Parsons and Brinkerhoff study? Is that what you said?
It's economic development study for South Weber City, prepared for South Weber City by Strategy 5 LLC, Parsons Brinkerhoff, Calback Planning and Design, July 2008.
Okay, I appreciate that. When you say we're going in the right direction, what things did you think we were headed in the right direction on? Understanding that I did understand you when we said we had more to go.
More commercial compared to what you had the last time. You've got more commercial in this. I'd like to see a little bit more, especially along Old Fort Road there. That would be one of the big things that I like on that. The design concept for mom and pop stores. It kind of reminds me of 25th Street in Ogden, which has got quite a bit of business down in that area. I'd like to see a restaurant in there, a good quality restaurant. Not Applebee's or anything, but if you could bring Zito's back, that'd be great.
So, if I may, Aaron, I'm not sure where we're trying to head for this with you. I mean, the mixed use committee, which this land falls on, was very clear in what their objective was. And their objective was bring your A game, show us what you got, and then we'll then we can decide. And there's 2 parcels in the city we've done that with, and this is one of those parcels. I'm getting uncomfortable with the fact that I feel like that I'm being roped into something that I really haven't seen, really don't know what it really looks like, and trying to get a commitment. You're trying to get a commitment from us. And so if it comes back and, well, you said you wanted this many units in townhomes, so that's it, you already said that. I don't want to get to that. What I want to see is I want to see the overall plan, bring your A game, show us exactly how cool or how neat this could really be, destination. And then I think that's where we need to go. I just don't feel comfortable with where this conversation's headed right now.
And even just give us some ideas. I mean, and not specifics. I know you can't, give us specifics of, types of companies coming in, but are you envisioning office space, retail space, restaurant space? I mean, something to go on. Because right now all we have is a gas station and storage units. And
So Rob? No, sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as part of that mixed use committee for this parcel, I think what we're always missing is a standard. So we're asking the developer to wow us, but they have no idea of really what it is that will wow us.
Well,
I mean, they're throwing darts at a wall, and this is exactly what they're asking us to do right now: is review the concept plans that they propose to us. What are we willing to take? What are the pushback points that we see? And then they can come back with a more refined design and then provide you with those additional elevations, renderings, whatever it is that needs to really wow us. And I don't mean to put words in your mouth here, guys, but I mean, Is that kind of what you're asking the planning commission to do? Marty, is that right?
I appreciate what you just said, Taylor, because that's exactly it. And the feedback, frankly, gentlemen, has been exactly what we needed. Whether we like it or not, it's what we need to hear and the clarification that we get. Because I'm not going to bring my A game until I have a direction on where I'm shooting. Getting the lay of the land a little bit better than we have, because as we've reviewed what's kind of had in the past, we see no. And so getting some of these maybes and yeses and possibilities has been very, very helpful.
Well,
So,
and I think that you've gone a long ways by convincing people that townhomes are okay to go into that development. If you'd asked me that question 9 months ago at the beginning of the year, no way that would ever happen. But I think that agreement has come. I think you got that. I think you've come back and said we can make the R7 work. And I think there's a lot of people like, okay, yeah, let's see if we can do that. I think it's the rest of the development that is just so unclear. We're starting to talk about an amphitheater. I'm not even sure that's even cool. I don't know, but where in the heck would it go? I don't know where that's going, right? I just like to see something more like, around the Fort idea, the Kingston idea. That's what I'm trying to drive at. And
so as you say that, Mr. Osborne, I take that concept with what Taylor was saying earlier and saying we're creating a standard. We're creating a concept that we're building around, and we can do that. And the words will, more than the pictures, is what will drive that. And so as you talk about lighting and problems that you've got on some of your things and the things you've learned, that's very appropriate. And so that's the feedback that we need to draw into this, and we'll incorporate in that development agreement. But when we bring a draft of a development agreement in, I'm going to bring it in, and it's going to use words to describe the pictures that we show, right? I can give you a pretty walkthrough, but at the end of the day, it's the words that when we sell this off and different people get involved, they're going to look at the words and say, well, what can and can't I do? And they're not going to look at the pretty picture that I showed you. They're going to look at the words that we wrote down.
No, and I appreciate that. But I mean, when I look at a design, I look at the design first, then go back and read the words.
Yep.
Right. And so I'm visual first, read it second, I guess.
One of the things I'm looking at, Marty, is within the next 10 years, we're going to see the properties down what will be Old Fort Road get developed, and we're going to see more people in that area wanting a little bit more commercial in that area, so that they can stop in at stores and pick up whatever they need. And I think, as Rob says, bring us your A game. I think what you've got here is probably a C game, and tweak it a little bit, get a little bit more commercial in there. And if you look down the road at the houses that are going to go in eventually down there, the commercial that'll be a good offset for that.
I agree in concept with what you're talking about, Wes. I still have the overall density that come get me when you have another 10,000 rooftops, and I'm looking at the community going, that's not going to happen based on this zoning. And so we're trying to play that game a little bit with potential users, but conceptually I 100% agree, and I've got your notes written down, and I think we can incorporate that.
And I in the future, I think it's about services and entertainment.
And food.
Okay, well, that's services, right? So
the other thing we got to look at is it's not just South Weber's rooftops.
No, I know.
You've got a main artery up there from Morgan, Mountain Green, people coming down this way. They've got small commercial development up there, and they're going to come down this way. And if we can get the commercial in there that would attract them, you're going to see much more people And the amount of traffic on 84 is going to increase over the years. And that's going to be an influence on what development there is.
Competing for our commercial.
So we're never going to have a Sam's Club or a Walmart.
Oh, no, I don't foresee that. I
But-
don't even foresee,
But Wes, going on what you're going on, I mean, there are people who drive from Evanston to shop in Riverdale.
oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
have to drive through South Weaver. If there's something quaint, something unique, whether it's a restaurant or a shop or something, I think that's where we're hoping we can capture people
Sure.
to stop.
And-
And again, we haven't heard
84
any
is-
ideas or types of things. You just commercial. There's a gas station. And you mentioned before, you guys are thinking about types of stuff. We don't need names. Just, I mean, give us a little something more. Maybe offices here or restaurants here. Because the thing is, if
Knock
you
off
want,
just a little bit, because there are some, I mean,
what this is a place that residents want to love, and they want to patronize.
so let's
And-
talk restaurants for just a little bit, because that's been brought up probably 4 or 5 times. Restaurants, you need lots of people. Businesses drive restaurants when you have kind of lunch traffic. Hotels drive that. We saw you
Burley
go
Burger Works.
to Business Park, and we haven't got a lot of love off a hotel concept, but yet those are the things that are going to push a restaurant.
And I'm telling you, Burley Burger Works.
Burley Burger works, it does, but it's not the nice restaurant that was referred to by Wes, right?
Right.
And it's sitting off of 89, where you're getting a lot of that back and forth traffic to South Ogden. Your traffic counts are more than double on 89, and that's only going up compared to what you have off this location. Which is why you see Burley Burger working, and why you see, your first gas station was there, not here. And why, what do you got? The Little Caesars over there. They're looking at the 89 traffic counts. And so there are some things that will work over there that don't work because it's South Weaver. They work because they're off of 89, which has a higher traffic count than your freeway section right there.
No. So I need to try to wrap it up because we have several more items on the agenda. Do you guys have everything you need from us?
Well, potentially, my hope was that we could kind of push some recommendations saying we like this if, and get a list and try and get, because we'd like to have the same conversation with city council.
I'd recommend from here is take what you've gotten and go to the city council and get their buy-in. That's what I'd recommend.
So Rob, I might take a little bit different tact on that.
Go ahead. I apologize.
Oh, and just that I get, that you want city council buy-in on this. I think we would like to provide a recommendation to city council before it's just sent to city council. And I think what you're asking us to do is to provide you some feedback and give us exactly what we've asked for an A game that keeps coming out. We want to recommend your A game to the city council and not waste your time with additional meetings. I think that's within our scope. Let's keep it here. When we feel like the idea is matured enough, we feel comfortable with making that recommendation, that would be my thought process behind getting you in front of the city council.
And I appreciate what you're saying, but they have a right to go to the city council anytime they want. And they could skip us altogether. It's not recommended, but they could, right?
Right, but there's a reason they started here too. And that's because it's within our code that we provide the recommendation on land use matters to the city council.
Correct. And supposedly our weight of the planning commission on land use matters should help guide the city council. So I agree with you, concept Taylor, but I guess if they're wanting to add more voices to the mix, I guess that's where you should go. I don't know.
I think that's exactly what the difference is, right? Are we wanting to add more voices to the mix right now, or are we wanting them to refine their concepts so that at least we're not so divergent, something completely radical comes out of the city council that we then are coming back to the planning commission to get our view on it. I would just much rather define what we feel like is a good recommendation to the city council and let them take it from there. And I don't feel like we're quite there yet. And I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination that we're not there yet.
Well, the agenda item, it's just a discussion. I
Yep,
don't think there's
exactly.
a move to do anything. So if they want to go to city council, let them go to city council. I think I do agree with you, Taylor. They probably should stay clear, but as Rob said, they have every right. And, that we're not making a decision or a recommendation on this. This is just simply a discussion
No.
today.
And they really haven't entered into our development process yet. And to Rob's point, I'm not ready to do any entitlements here. Any discussion that we're talking about is not leading to an entitlement on this property. So right now we're just having a concept plan discussion, and I'd like to keep it here at the Planning Commission until we refine the concept further.
Based on that feedback, can I ask a couple quick questions?
Certainly.
And I've got notes written down all over my papers here. As we talk uses, we did get feedback from you and have, some ideas on the storage units. We got some feedback on potential service station. Sounds like you would like to see some office. You'd like to see some retail space in smaller amounts. Or smaller scope. I'm not sure.
I don't know if any of us said what we necessarily wanted. We just, because I mentioned office space, but I didn't say I wanted office space.
Okay.
And what we like is different than what we can get, right? You guys are the ones telling us what market conditions might be able to bear. Tell us that, and we can work with that. But I don't want it to be some. I'm sorry, what's that?
How do you feel about hotels?
I think it's within the. I think it's something that would be allowed within the use of what we're considering there. So absolutely. It's just a matter of, again, it's about how it lines out with the site, how we're creating that visual appearance of something, and Gary hit it right on, of something that the residents want to love.
Well, and I think the hotel, I'm okay with hotel too. I think that's a big moneymaker for the city with the transient tax. So I think the concern is, Spring Hill Suites Marriott, not Motel 6.
Yeah.
And I can't create a differentiation within a development agreement that says that, but we can create design standards that would cater more towards one than the other.
Sure. Understand.
Definitely not a truck stop area.
Well, you might get that in your current code right now, so we're trying to bring you something better. I don't want to see a truck stop.
Very true.
Like I said, I'd like to see a little bit more retail in that area. I think we would find that it could be supported, especially from the surrounding communities. Washington Terrace, South Ogden, Riverdale. If we had the right mix, I think we could pull a lot of retail into this area.
200 units per acre over at Gardner Village, and they're already losing tenants.
Well, retail's got more struggle than just rooftops with things going online. I as much as I want to promise that, there's no way I'm stepping into that one. But we can talk some potential uses. We can bring a tighter concept. Mr. Osborne, you talked about the A game over and over again, and as I interpreted that was more 3D kind of presentation wow factor on and trying to paint a stronger vision. Am I interpreting that right?
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
correct. Very good.
For me, it's a little more information. I think that's what I'm missing.
And what do you mean by information? Give me help flush.
Go back and watch this, because I've already said it 2 times. Rob, we're pushing 8:48. We have 2 more items on the agenda, and we have another meeting scheduled next week.
I agree with that.
So Rob, if I can just hit the remaining items that I have in front of this development document, they're quick. So just to provide them the comments that they presented to us. So we hit 2, I'm good with that. 3, you have my comment on that. I'm open to varying densities dependent upon site plan. The open spaces, great, I'm good with that. Number 5, the Creative and Architectural Review Committee. I'm opposed to that one. I think we keep it within our development process as is. I like just having you guys come to the Planning Commission. I like you guys doing outreach. I think that's a great idea. I just don't want to put it into anything that's within writing. So, but those are my salient points on what you provided to us tonight.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
The only person I'm
Sure.
sorry, I haven't heard from him. I don't know what his thought is.
Yeah, I think there seems to be a lot of focus for this residential, this kind of an anchor. And I'm not, I don't like the layout, the storage units along the freeway, the residential along Old Fort. It just seems like we've got a gas station with a lot of residential focusing on some parks. And it isn't really wowing me as far as the layout. You know, I'm not opposed to residential. I'm not opposed to commercial. It just seems like there could be more commercial, and maybe the residential needs to be situated a little bit better. And I'm not opposed to the storage units, but that just doesn't seem like the right spot. And I don't know where you put them. Either along.
Yeah, those storage units got put where they did. I mean, there's power lines that go from the corner of that property across across the property. I mean, those where that road is, because you drive by and you take a glance over there, there's a gap wide enough that fits this profile on that property right now. Between the power lines and the trees, these storage units would literally disappear.
Yeah, well, maybe your 3D rendering will help us see that. I don't know.
Okay.
So it just doesn't look good on this plan that I'm looking at. So, but the plan's flat, so it's hard to tell.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. I didn't hear from you, and I value your opinion. If you guys have everything you need, we'd like to move on to the next discussion item. If you guys have everything you need.
I do. Thank you. Appreciate your efforts on this and your feedback. Helpful.
And chew on that for a bit, right? Okay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Riverside Place Phase 5 final recommendation, location at approximately 6750 South, 675 East, parcel 13-018-0081, 2.84 acres, 11 lots. I looked at it. I'm okay with it. It looks like it's pretty straightforward. As I reviewed the notes from Barry and from Brandon, it looked pretty clean and ready to be moved on to the City Council for recommendation.
Agree. We need to give these guys a gold star for hanging in there for this so long a meeting. So thanks for your patience.
Not a problem. So we do appreciate that. It's been a good meeting to listen to. You guys have a lot of things going on over there. One of the questions that we do have, it was in the memo there, was the fence along the Posse grounds needing to be a chain link fence. Is the Posse Grounds, slated to remain for horse riding? Is that something that will need 2 fences on, one for, the chain link fence and also a vinyl fence for the residents? And then just wanted to see what the thoughts were on that so that we can get that addressed on our plans correctly.
So the Posse Grounds is not going anywhere.
Okay.
It will remain there. We actually developed the next part to accompany the Posse Grounds, and so it is not going anywhere.
Okay.
So I believe the recommendation was for chain link fence, if I remember reading that correctly, and I apologize if I didn't.
Yeah, that's what I had in my memo, was just because it's residential to ag zoning. So that's just traditionally what would go there. I suppose if there's other thoughts on that, then now would be the time to that direction.
So the question with that, with the Posse Grounds already being fenced, can we just leave that fence in place and put up a vinyl fence for the residential, for the subdivision?
My understanding, although I did not see it with my own eyes, but was that the fence there on what it would
It's
be
gone.
the south.
I think it's gone.
Is it?
So
Okay.
there's a ton of trees that fell over there. I think there'd have to be some cleanup, and we'd have to verify if the fence is still standing or not.
Okay.
And I don't think it was chain link anyway. I think it was just a wire fence.
Well, it was just T-post,
right, Blair?
or something.
The fence is currently a chain link fence, but it is in very bad shape right now, and worse now because of the trees.
Okay.
So now the discussion is, what's an appropriate fence to have along that boundary?
Well, if it's not chain link, I mean, again, you will have horses there and other whatever is in the Posse Grounds. So I don't. Blair may have the best perspective on that. I don't know.
I agree.
Well, from a livestock standpoint, it needs to be chain link or something, but I mean, I understand why those homes would probably prefer a vinyl fence. And so just like in my backyard, we have the vinyl fence, and then I've had to install another fence for the animals, because the vinyl fence, as you see in the windstorm, go away, and I had horses out. So it just doesn't work for an arena.
Okay.
So I guess the requirement to have something that abuts, or that's appropriate for the Posse Grounds, that's not the developer's requirement per se.
Right.
Right?
Oh.
So
the
I
purpose
guess to answer his question.
Residential and agriculture, and we require 6-foot fence, a 6-foot chain.
Right.
That's the code is what Brandon was saying, is chain link fence between agricultural and residential.
I think it states a minimum. So I personally wouldn't probably recommend anything other than chain link. Something else could always be done on the resident side if they really don't like it, but based on the use, it feels like chain link is probably the best fit in my opinion. But if you feel differently, then that I'm just pointing out now's the time to say that.
All right. I guess everyone held their peace.
Well, I want to say that we've heard from in other circumstances where we've had this come up, that vinyl and livestock don't get along very well. The vinyl just is not sturdy enough to deal with livestock leaning on it or sticking a horn through it or those kinds of things. So my recommendation would be stick with the chain link as well.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely stick with the chain link, and then we'll kind of make a decision if we're going to do a second fence there for the residents or not. So.
Okay. So with that chain link recommendation in Brandon's memo, I'd look for a motion to.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Just a couple of little questions on, it's getting late. I can't see the small fine print on the notes on the plat. It says 50-foot power easement over, I can't read it anymore. Note number 4. Can somebody read note number 4 on the plat? Can you see it? Brandon, you're younger than me.
Note number 4 says a 50-foot power easement overlap on the west line of the subject property. Overlap dimension in detail A shown here on.
So I'm looking at the west side of this property, and I don't see the easement or the power line.
So the easement, I'm looking at this correct, is through lot 505. And sorry, I'm just trying to get this.
It's labeled proposed 30-foot power easement, powerful easement.
Yeah, there's one already there.
Well, that's the northeast corner. I'm talking about the west. I'm talking about the 50-foot power easement overlap on the west line of subject property.
I see what you're saying.
Where's that?
That's it. I'll have to look at that. And I apologize, I don't see that on here.
Is the power line along that west side of this phase 5? Or is this just taken off of another plat and Reeves just didn't take it off?
I think it was just, it was from a previous plat because it is not, looking at the Google Earth images, yeah, the power line is not through the west property line of phase 5 here.
Okay, and that's kind of what I was assuming.
Yeah, we just have it going through lot 505. So we'll review that, make sure there's no.
So you could honestly, I mean, the easement shown on lot 505 on the plat, you could eliminate note 4. There's no reason for it. So is there a reason that we said no basements versus using a elevation?
Yeah, Tim, this particular development opted not to put in a landing. And so the restriction was no basements.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember.
So in Harvest Park, they and Old Maple Farms and the others down in this area, they all chose to put in a land drain, but Riverside did not. So that's why all the other ones have the table with the basement depth elevation, restriction, and these ones do not.
Okay, I thought we just would use an elevation on each lot and they could go off of that, but I'm fine. I'm fine with that note. If they want to eliminate basements, that's their own.
They were required to with the preliminary.
Okay. I don't have anything else, Rob.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve.
I'm happy to make one.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Riverside Place Phase 5 final, and subject to the memorandum from Brandon K. Jones dated September 4th, 2020, and the review by Barry Burton of September 4th, 2020. And subject to the correction on the notes on the plat, removing item number 4 for the 50-foot power easement overlap. That's it.
There's second.
Second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Wes. Appreciate that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, we have everybody, so moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a 2020 General Plan Review and Recommendation. Is there anything else to review? Can I just call for a vote for recommendation?
I had one item.
Okay.
I think you might be familiar with it, Rob. Let me go to my notes. The recommended zoning for that parcel of land. Just south of the Morty's Car Wash.
Okay.
We've got a little strip of commercial in there, and then there's R7 on the corner, and just trying to clean that up and have, you know, Morty's Car Wash be the end of the commercial, and everything south of that be the R7.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Okay. Can you make that note, Barry? And
I've got it. I've got a note, and I think Brandon will be making the change, but I'll make sure it happens.
okay. Thank you. If there is not anything else, I'd look for a recommendation to send the 2020 general plan to the city council for their recommendation, as it is.
Rob, can I just ask one question?
No.
You've had a year.
The focus on the roads has been in lots of other places in the city. But I know we have talked previously, I think with the Planning Commission, it's been a while, but down on Kingston, that's just west of Heather Cove. That on the transportation map, that road is shown as going through, requiring a connection there. We have discussed in the past, I say we, that I believe it's been discussed with the Planning Commission, that potentially might not be required to go through. I just wanted to see if you feel like that's been talked about before and you want it to reflect that on the drawing, or if you're good with the way it's shown. Do you know where I'm talking about?
I'm looking for it.
It's just directly north of the soccer complex, that stub street.
It would be the road that goes through the soccer complex property currently.
Yeah, right.
Right.
It doesn't have any soccer fields on it right now, right?
No.
Right.
No.
Okay.
So if we remove it as being required, it doesn't remove the situation that we could require it. I mean, if it's needed by access or some other issue under the code, we could still require that road on a future development. It just means we don't have, the general plan wouldn't force us to have something go through there if it's not really needed.
But
Yeah.
Kingston is kind of stubbed that way to already have a road. So I don't see a need to change it on the general plan.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it as is.
I say.
But
leave
it's
it
not
alone.
talking about having the road, it's having the road continue west of that parcel. If there's no future development west of that stuff.
I think the reason Brandon brought that up is because that parcel has an easement on it that restricts, you can't put residents on that parcel. It could be
Yes.
something else, but not residences.
That's only at the southern end of it.
No, not in this case,
Oh,
Wes.
okay.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, okay.
This one actually has, when the state went in and bought easements,
They bought that
They-
whole thing.
they bought the whole thing.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Right. My concern would just be that we have because it's developable on either side of that, that you develop up to that and stub roads to go across there, but then there's really there's nothing that would ever connect those roads unless, because development wouldn't necessarily do it. And so then we may just end up with some roads that are stubbed that won't ever really be connected. I don't think this is a big issue. I just know it was talked about once before, and it was one thing I noticed on the drawing. Just was asking the question before you send it on to city council.
So what you're trying to do is avoid a bunch of stubbed roads.
I just don't see that there's a method, a funding mechanism necessarily that will connect that road, because development is it's highly unlikely that the development is going to do it.
Okay. I'm okay to take it off if that's your recommendation, Brian.
Well, I'm just expressing just an observation and a small concern. That's all. It's fine the way it is. Just wanted to bring it up if you wanted to change it. That's all. Sorry, didn't mean to drag this out.
No, Rob, I'm good with just leaving it there. I mean, if there's a chance it develops, great. If not, then we know that there's limited chance of it going that way. I don't see a need to take it off.
Okay. I just don't care either way. It works for me if it's, but yeah.
I move we send the general plan to the city council for approval with Tim's request that we correct the transportation map on that one little section.
For the land use plan?
General use map.
Oh, yes, thank you.
To change
I was
it.
looking at the wrong map. Yes, general use map.
I don't mean to give that blanket here at the end of the meeting, but I think the step required by LUDMA is that once you recommend approval, then a hearing has to be held at the planning commission level, and then it would move forward to the city council for.
We've already had a hearing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's it. We always understood that we sent the plan to the city council and they have the hearing.
It's not.
There was a May amendment to LUDMA that specified the sequence of those decisions.
Oh my gosh.
There's already been a hearing. I think there has to be one more hearing, and I think it would have to be at least 10 days from when it could be noticed tomorrow, and then it would go forward to the city council. The city council could do a redundant hearing. There's not a prohibition against that, but the hearing has to occur at the planning commission level after recommendation.
And then do they have to have a hearing as well?
No, the council does not have to have a hearing. They can choose to, but they're not obligated to.
Who invited Jamie?
Sorry.
And exactly when are you going to write that letter to the legislature? That's what I want to know. Saying, what are you thinking?
It's actually my fault. I noticed it when I was reading through stuff and brought it to his attention, so you can all yell at me.
Well, I'll second Gary's motion.
Hang on, we gotta get the motion right now. So
Well, I'll second Gary's motion, and then they can decide if we need to have a hearing.
Yeah, so I think the motion would still be to recommend, but then procedurally you would hold a hearing. No action would be required after that hearing. You could modify the plan based on what you hear, but then it would move forward to the city council.
Sounds great.
But why recommend it to the city council without the hearing?
Well,
Because you have to recommend it before you can have the hearing, though. It's the wording in the legislature.
I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm just saying that's what the law is.
I tried.
All right. So your
Good try, Gary.
recommendation is to send this under the city council after a planning commission hearing. That will be when? At least 10 days. So it's into our next planning commission in October, correct?
Well, we just make a recommendation.
Yeah, it would be in October unless you want another special meeting.
No. Nope.
I'm meeting down. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's how it goes, Gary.
Okay.
Your recommendation is onto the city council after our public hearing.
Well, we
Yes.
have a motion and a second.
Do I add the after the public hearing in the motion?
Sounds
Yeah.
like we have to do that.
Do
Okay.
we have a second?
Yes, I second that.
There was.
Okay, here it is, folks. Commissioner Grubb,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah.
Commissioner Boatright,
Yes.
Commissioner Walton.
Aye.
I as well. Thank you.
And Michelle, here, I'm gonna put this on the screen so you can use it as reference real quick.
Okay, can I keep going then?
Absolutely, you can keep going.
Anybody have any more comments? Commissioner Boatright,
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Grubb,
No, thanks.
Commissioner Johnson?
One thing that we've got the Horrocks evaluation on the Weber River Trail development for the city. City Manager Dave's got copies of it. He said he's going to send me a copy of it to look over. But it looks like, from what we've heard so far, that it's not going to be that difficult to move forward on connecting the center part of the city over to the Weber River Trail.
Awesome. Okay,
I'll have more info once I get to see a copy of it.
okay.
Keep up the good work.
What? I have nothing. Commissioner Walton,
Nope.
look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Who so moved?
Wes,
Wes.
I did.
Wes so moved. I seconded.
I
Aye.
chosen.
Rob, what are you
We
doing there?
lose, Rob.
He's stunned.
We can't end our meeting. Rob,
Taylor, you have every right to harass Rob now.
Right. Critical.
There
there
he
he
is.
is.
Oh, he's back.
Did I disappear?
Yes,
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
you froze up.
We're adjourned. And yeah, we'll see you all on the